used to do a TV show, and I had to do everything. We shot it live, but I had to edit all the tapes VCR ahead of time. And so then I had to line everything up. You got one take at it. It was like, it was rough, but we made it through.
Nice. What TV show is that?
Quick Trips Eagle Eye on Racing, presented by United Auto Supply. 2 years in lacrosse.
Nice.
Yep.
Is that like a college kind of?
Yeah, it was during college, but I just started it, I think, junior and senior year, and then it kept going until I think they ran up till 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
No kidding.
Yep.
Interesting.
Pretty cool. Pre-podcast.
Pre-podcast, right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Feel free to put the mic wherever you want, as long as it's in 6-8 inches. We're good to go.
All right.
Gosh, well, thank you so much for coming up here. I know racers are busy. You're busy. It's the dead middle of summer. Racing is in full swing, and you somehow are squeaking in a little bit of time to drive up here and do this.
Yeah, we just finished 14 events in 20 days. So
14 events.
I slept in a little bit this morning.
Good, I'm glad.
And then got to the track and got to work. But that's okay. That's good.
I'd
rather be busy than bored.
Oh, exactly, right. Now, when you and I first ever talked about, made a brief mention that, hey, you should come on the podcast. It was at Madison this year at the Joe Shear Classic, and right away I got excited. I'm like, oh, it'd be great to have Gregg on. And I'd ran the Midwest Truck Series race that day, and then got a chance to watch the 200. And I don't think I'd ever been down there to watch the 200 back when it was only a 100-lap race. Before it was, I think maybe still the Joe Shear, but only a 100-lap race. I'd watched it, but I got standing there thinking, and I was like, man, I wonder what this is like, thinking back for you, where you came from, what, everything your parents did, your dad did, and now you're there, the owner of Madison, Mark Martin and Dave Watson are in the house. The stands are packed. The crowd's on their feet. We're about to drop the green flag on 200 laps for what was a fantastic race, ended fantastic. What does that feel like to just, do you feel like you have a moment to stand back and be like, man, this is awesome, and then it's, you're in tune to the race? It's
usually right during driver intros that you kind of, we put a lot of work into that. And when we took over Madison, it was 100 laps, and it was 3,600 to win. And the first time we ran it, it rained, and we had like $40 in our checking account. It was just, man, I'm not sure what we're doing. And then you've seen, between the drivers and the fans and just our entire team, the effort put into it and the support given to it. I always felt that the Joe Shear Classic, much like, the Refner race, any time that we're paying tribute to the heroes of my youth and really of short track racing in the Midwest, we need to put our best foot forward. And, from the UW band, our son Al arranged a flyover. Mark Martin absolutely was great with everyone. He wanted to be there, and I think we're going to see him more up here in the Midwest. It was kind of a welcome back party, if you will. And, it's just it's so cool to see that race play out, because year after year that race just delivers. For whatever reason, 200 laps, that format at Madison, with the talent that we have on the track. The truck race is just the perfect complement for it. I'm usually out parking cars, which is where promoters want to be. And it's not, we have good groups parking cars, but it's always like, well, I need to get out there and help, because, it's just, it's a great feeling and a great way to kick off the season.
Hey, it's a good problem to have if you got to be out there helping to park cars if there's that many.
Yeah, everyone's like, well, don't you have, no, we hire people to do all the jobs. Like, I'm just the guy that when something goes wrong, I got to be there. And so I'm absolutely on cloud nine when I'm out parking cars. I don't know if people understand how much I do enjoy it, because you get to talk to the fans and see their excitement.
Sure.
And everything else. So and you get the feedback, and, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's more good than bad, but to grow that into 1,500 to start and 15,000 to win, and, a 6-tire race. And I just feel like it really sets an example for hopefully the rest of the nation, that we can do these big events without having to nickel and dime everyone. And if we can get people in the stands, we can make the numbers work and continue to grow. So excited to see where that event goes.
Yeah, it was a fantastic event, and it was good to be a part of it. As the truck series, and yeah, I mean it was weather was great, and just cool to see that. Yeah, like I said, Mark and Dave Watson be there was wonderful.
Yeah, good weather makes even the worst promoters look good. So
yeah,
I was looking pretty good that day.
So I got a couple lightning round questions I want to throw out to you. Do you have a favorite track outside of Wisconsin?
Thunder Road in Barre, Vermont. Absolutely awesome.
Never heard of it, so you got to explain.
So Tom Curley was one of my promoter heroes. He was really good to me through my youth. But he was the one in the director's booth during the 79 Daytona 500 that told the cameras to stay on the Bobby Allison fight with Cale Yarborough, Donnie, and Bobby.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, and he was business partners with Ken Squire. And they got this little track that runs on Thursday nights in Barre, Vermont. And they've now since, Tom passed, I want to say in 18 or 19, but he invited us out there, and I told Chuck Deary, who's our business partner at La Crosse, I said, man, we should probably go out there and see that. We went out there, and we landed, and all of a sudden Kenny Schrader's there, and he was racing, and it was just a huge crowd, like 8,000 people. And Tom, some four-cylinder broke his beer out too early, and Tom commandeered it, so then we got to sit and drink his beer after the races till too early in the morning and just hear the stories about I didn't even know that mobsters existed in Canada, but apparently they do. And Tom Curley was the head of the ACT tour. And it's just a cool track. And there was no light poles. Everything was on suspension cables. So when the cars got racing, it looked like an old barroom light with a oversized bulb in it. And it had a brown hue to it. And the lights would start swinging as the cars are going. And then the caution would come out, and the lights would come up in the grandstand just like it at a theater. And then when the green came back out, the lights came back down. I'm like, man, this is so cool. And They had Bud Hill. You got to bring a 6-pack per adult in, bring your own beer in. And then they had the family pricing. And so I said, when we buy our own track, I'm going to do family pricing. And so now we have family pricing at both Madison, Angel Park, La Crosse has it now. Now Dells has picked it up, and other tracks are picking it up, and it's all because of that trip out to Barre, Vermont.
That's cool. What made Tom Curley a hero of yours?
So Tom is really big on economic racing. So he was pretty much the first promoter that accepted the 604 crate motor, and there was actually a 603 that they ran out there. But when we were running Big 8, it was always between Big 8 and ACT for who had the biggest car count every weekend or every race. So there kind of became a rivalry there, but a good one. But he was just the guy knew the business in and out, and you could ask him a question. And he definitely one of the mentors outside of the Midwest. And obviously, we have a lot of good people that we've leaned on over the years here in the Midwest. Yeah. But Tom was one that you could pick up the phone or shoot an email to him, and he understood, and it was everything from the 4 cylinders down to the late models. He held everyone to a higher bar, and actually, of all things, the Dick Trickle 99 at Oktoberfest is based off of his Milk Bowl there at Thunder Road. So there's a lot of Thunder Road connections in Wisconsin that people may not know, but it's just an awesome track. So it's sold now, and they put a wall up, but. So it used to not have a wall, but it's just cool. So if you're passing through Barre, Vermont on a Thursday night, I recommend going.
Okay, that's cool. That is neat. No, never heard of it. So it's really interesting to hear about that.
I've seen racing at 250 racetracks now. So I just
200.
Just in February I got to see my most recent one. So I am kind of a geek when it comes to racing. I love short track racing to a fault.
So how many more do you have left to go to?
Randy Lewis, who lives in California, has seen racing in 87 countries, and it's something like 1,800 tracks he's seen.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to get there, but I try to add 3 a year at this now. And then in retirement, I hope to go to a lot more, but we'll see.
All right. We'll keep tabs on it.
Yeah.
Do you take the chance or get the chance, for that matter, to watch a lot of like NASCAR racing on TV of like the top 3 levels?
Very rarely.
Okay.
Yeah. And part of it.
And same.
Yeah. Part of it is I'm just, if I have a day off, like, so for instance, Sunday we had a autocross event at Madison. So we raced Saturday at the fair at La Crosse, drove home, went to bed at like 1 a.m, got up, got everything ready at autocross. Not that there's a whole lot to do. Then tried to fix the battery issue on the safety truck, and I failed miserably at that. And then and some buddies came up from Rockford, and we had a couple beers, and I didn't even think about watching the race. And Dover's usually a pretty good race, but I'm just like, yeah, I need to check out and not think about racing for an afternoon. Yeah. So that's what we did.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was I feel like I don't take the time or, make the time to watch a lot myself, and being that, you got racing Friday night and Saturday and Sunday, I was curious if it ever.
Yeah. I mean, so like when in the spring when, Ty and Luke are running on the truck schedule, and that's pretty cool to watch those guys. And, so obviously right. I try to tune in when I can on them, but otherwise, if it's there,
catch the highlights.
If I come in from Moen and they're on, I'll follow. So yeah, I watch the highlights.
Gotcha. All right. Now, I would kind of a hard hitting question, and it's something that I have heard over and over from people, being at a racetrack. If, let's say a race event goes long and someone will be like, those promoters like to drag out that show to increase the beer sales and the food sales. It's probably something you've heard 1,000 times in your life for the last however many years. Where does that come from, and is there any truth to it?
I haven't seen it. My goal is to get families down in the pits after the races.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we want to be done at 10. We start at 7:30. I want to be done at 10. And case in point, we had our second oil down, which was only the beginning of the oil down city Friday night at Madison. And, like the concessions are dead because everyone's already gotten their sandwich. They've gotten their beer. They've gotten their soda. Like they've done it. So we flipped the blue light special on and did $2 Busch Lights during it. We sold a few more, but it wasn't a run. Like people, they kind of get what they're going to get.
Yeah.
And just because a football game goes into overtime doesn't mean people are going to, they can't crash the beer line because they end the beer sales at the end of the third quarter. Don't ask how I know. But, I just don't see it. That's like our auction that we have, the racers auction. It's like I want to get done as quick as I can because I got this payroll. We know that we have X amount of parts to sell. We're going to sell them to the highest bidder, and we're going to move on to the next one. And that's kind of how I feel on race nights. We don't need to draw the show out. We know that we're going to run this many laps. We have this many divisions, and the entire staff knows, and the truck series has learned, and others have learned that like Badger Midgets is still learning at Angel Park that Gregg wants to be done as quick as Gregg can be done with these races, because drawing them out and having these delays isn't good for the fans. We
right.
work hard. They work hard for their money. We work hard to have them come buy a ticket. I don't want them to be bored. I want something in front of them and to keep the show going.
Yeah. Well, we can lay that one to
there
rest.
We are.
Perfect.
So someone else will tell you something different. But.
Yeah, it's one of those things, it's like I've heard it my entire life too. I've never agreed along with it, never assumed that was the case, but now we can.
Well, I'm glad you asked me about intermissions. Yeah, I don't like those either, because all you do is you slam your profit centers, and just, people will, they may not want to watch the 4-cylinder, or they came to watch their buddy in a 4-cylinder, and they're gonna pick and choose, and there's enough breaks within the night. We don't need to take a 15-minute break to just slam and make huge lines and make everybody miserable. We can just keep racing, and if someone's hungry or thirsty or needs to go to the bathroom, there's enough breaks built in naturally. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
but I've only been doing this for 25 years. So
yeah, someone's gonna blow a motor, and
yep.
You can.
And sometimes 2 people,
yep.
or 3. Yeah, such fun.
Yeah. So
order more oil dry this morning, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
There
you go. Yeah, make sure you don't run out.
No, don't want to do that.
I've only seen that happen once at a racetrack when I was present. Yeah.
It's been close.
Yeah.
I think I might have been there for one of them. Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah. So now, you hear a lot of people of, hey, they're second, third, probably even getting into a lot of 4th generation racers nowadays. But, you come from a racing family as well. Where did things really get going with your family, even before you were born? When did your dad and parents really get involved in racing?
So the whole story is that my my dad and my uncle grew up on a farm in Northwest Ohio. And when they got done with their chores, Grandpa would take them to the races. And so from childhood, or, from like 6 or 8 years old, and they quit putting the results in the local paper. So it was Bryan Speedway in Bryan, Ohio. And they grew up in West Unity, just next door. And so Dad wrote a letter to the editor asking why the race results weren't there. And lo and behold, he ends up working at the racetrack at 14, doing the results and, little race recaps. And we have pictures of him painting posters in the kitchen at the farmhouse and, promotional stuff. So it was always a love of his. And he went to Northwestern and eventually became an engineer for International Harvester. And while he was at Northwestern, he started working here. I have the letter. He wrote Gordy Sill, who owned Waukegan Speedway. He wrote him a letter, hand-typed, and sent it to him, and he was hired and eventually became the pit marshal, and then eventually became the announcer there, and then he was announcing at Grundy and kind of working the Chicagoland circuit, if you will, and did his own promotion, he and Mom, in 74, and then Art Frigo approached him, wanted to do a big race. So that's where Art Go comes from, is Art Frigo. And Art still is a very successful businessman in the Chicagoland area. And approached Dad about being part of it. And that's your grandfather won the very first Art Go race in 75, Wayne Carter Classic, which is coming up August 16th at Grundy. And he, kind of the rest is history with that. Mom and Dad, I was being born, my brother was born in 76. I was being born in February of 79, and they signed the papers to purchase Art Go from Art Frigo. And then like a year later, Dad left International Harvester, and then they became the track managers. While running Art Go, they were the track managers at Capitol, Oregon, Madison.
Okay.
And so I really, this is how I grew up. This is how my brother grew up. We lived in a pop-up camper the 1 year behind the beer stand. The scar on my head is from my brother pushing me down. Saved my life from a Pepsi truck, he claims, on the front hill at Madison. So there's a lot of McKarns roots there in the greater Oregon area. So it's pretty cool that everything came full circle and we were able to be the owners now.
Yeah. So right from the beginning, were you obviously being drugged along to racetracks, especially if you were living in a pop-up camper behind the track?
Yeah. Well, we moved into an apartment the next year because Mom put her foot down.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. We still had our house in Illinois, but yeah. So anyways, it was from everything. Tom Deary used to rip a $5 bill in half and have my brother and I hand out flyers. And when we had done a good job, we'd get the second half of the $5 bill, and my mom would have to tape them together. And that's that, and selling programs and checkered flag racing news and souvenir flags, and kind of I was always, one way or another, I was either selling you something or handing you something when you came through the gate at about every short track event in Wisconsin for the better part of my youth. And then slowly became, of all things, Eddie Hoffman, the Chicagoland champion and Art Go champion and Mid-American champion. He and Biff George were about unstoppable in the Midwest Enduro Series, which was a V8 Enduro Series that my dad and Tom Deary started. And so that's really where I learned how to score. I would sit up in the tower and cheat score Eddie Hoffman to make sure that all of the times on his scorecard were right. And he was just that good. And we never caught, I watched his car every lap and wrote the time down every lap. And he was just head and shoulders above a lot of the, Dennis Barta from Minnesota. And you just had some great drivers in that class. So that's where I learned, and then slowly but surely became a line scorer. And I used to, Minnesota State Fair, I would walk in, and whoever needed a scorer, I was probably like 10 up on the stage doing the flop clock scoring, usually for George Lee Shabrowski, who turned into my favorite driver through my youth. So helped a lot of small struggling ASA teams back in the day with flop clock scoring.
Gotcha. God, that's neat. Yeah, I'm. That's something I'm glad went away as I came up in racing. Never had to deal with that.
Yeah, you got the transponders.
Yep, exactly.
Which are still a pain. So, but anyways.
Yeah, they're great when they work.
They're great when they work.
Great when they work.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, really, as you were a kid, did you fall in love with racing just instantly because it was kind of all what you knew?
Yeah. Obviously, it's pretty cool. So during that era, I would go we would be my mom and dad would drop my brother and I off at my grandparents' house in Florida, and then they would go to the beach to work for a week and a half. But we learned that there was a lot of after-hour work going on with there was a Wisconsin party and a Michigan party. And so you hear all those stories later in life, like, man, no wonder why they dropped us at Grandma and Grandpa's. So anyways, we go down there, right? And, Dick Trickle's in the 42 car, and Alan Kowicki's running the Quincy's car, and we had to go to Quincy's Steakhouse to see. And I mean, these are the guys that I had my little notebook and was getting the autographs of, and then you go see them run at Daytona. It was so cool. And like how do you not have, Mark Martin was a hero of mine, and Bobby Allison was a hero of mine, and I got to have breakfast with Davey and Bobby Allison, and I got to go in a Ferrari Testarossa with Davey Allison. I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, these guys were bigger than life, and they would take time, and how do you not fall in love with it? And I always say that the people that you meet in short track racing are amongst the best people in the world. Like you and I could argue, but in 2 weeks, if you need something or I need something, we're going to help each other. And it's all the way through the pit area, and it's just what a great family to be a part of. And actually, I'm deaf in one ear, and so I had to start school early for speech therapy. And so the one day they're going through, and they're like, well, who are your grandparents? So I start naming off all my grandparents. Well, I had a lot of grandparents in racing. So there's only two biological sets of grandparents, but I had grandma, grandpa Smells. Yeah, they called my mom like, what is your family dynamic? Because he named all these other grandparents, and she's like, oh no, that's just the racing family. We call everyone grandma and grandpa. Oh, okay. So yeah, I've been adopted by a lot of families over the years.
Yeah, I'm an only child, so my kids only have one true aunt and uncle on my wife's side of the family, but they got a lot of other aunts and uncles too. So I'll probably run into the same thing there.
It's good. These are good problems to have.
Yeah. Yep. Did you have any other interests? Time for any other interests growing up?
Yeah, I was. I was going to be in the NFL draft, and then reality set in, and so that didn't happen. But I went to football camp in Colorado, and kind of was. I thought I was pretty good, and then until I wasn't, and then it kind of came down to, well, you can be really good in racing or you can keep following this. And so sophomore year of high school, I went to the first 2 weeks of football practice and kind of just saw I was still under 6 foot when I'm just like 6'2", 6'3", depending on who was asking. But back then I was under 6 foot. So, you're sitting there and you're like, well, I'm going to be riding the bench, and or I could go be the line scorer, and I can go help Clem Drosty and go to all these races.
Yeah.
And it's like, that sounds like a lot more fun. So I made the decision sophomore year of high school that racing was what we were going to do, and been chasing it ever since.
And yeah, I mean, did you know early on in your life, like, I want to make being involved in racing my profession, or did you kind of, hey, I'm probably going to have some other job and then I'm going to also have this?
Yeah, it was always racing. Yeah, the Late Model Digest did a story on me when I was like 14, and it just kind of, this just makes sense. And my mom and dad were so good to me, and Mom always said, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. And even when I left Rockford, some of their friends called, no, Greg, remember, you don't have to do this. I said, yeah, but I'm not going to punch a clock every day. Like, I absolutely love the challenge of putting on a race anywhere USA. I love every part of it. And there's days I don't, but at the end of the day, I still love it. And so I was pretty sure Bill Don Willard, who was my first racing boss that wasn't named McKarns, he tried to hire me right out of high school, and he owned Lebanon I-44 Speedway in Missouri and Bolivar Speedway. And so he was very interested. And then of all things, Jerry Filner wanted to hire me when I was in college to come run Madison. Everything comes full circle. But I graduated school in 3.5 years, went into school knowing I was going to run a racetrack, but just figured I needed to polish up on Excel workbooks and all those sorts of things and management. And so anyways, I graduated in 3.5 years and went and ran Lebanon I-44 Speedway. And unfortunately, we were, Angie and I were 22 years old when we lived down there, and Bill Don was on his third bout with cancer, and the family wanted us to buy the track for over $1 million. And we were 22 years old, living away from our family and friends. And then we ended up going to Elko from there. But it was, so there was always a path, and it was just a matter of what that path looked like. And obviously there's been some twists and turns, but we're still at it. Like this is my 25th year as a general manager of short tracks.
Okay.
And for the longest time, I was going to run ArtGo, and then NASCAR came and bought ArtGo from it was my freshman year of college. And so that really changed my course. But I had been working at lacrosse. I mowed the hillsides and cleaned the toilets and painted the walls and did all those things. So I was familiar with the weekly racing grind, and Chuck Deary was like the best mentor a guy could have. And I lived with his kids were 5 and 3 when I moved into their house, and I lived with them for 2 summers and learned so much. And then ArtGo sold, and it's like, well, I know exactly what I'm doing with short track racing. So, the weekly stuff. So, and with that, the series eventually came back around with Big 8 and then the Midwest Tour. So I've always loved the traveling tour, but the weekly racing really, I've really found a home there too.
Okay. Now you talked about Angie, your wife, so she went with you when you guys were 22 down to Missouri?
Yeah, she'd never been to a race when we met. And oddly, we started dating on Memorial Day weekend, which is really low key time for us in short track racing. So I think I had 4 events that weekend. And I remember I drove back from Madison. We had a NASCAR Midwest Tour race at Madison on that Monday, and we went on a date that night. And so that was our first date, was after 4 races in 3 days or 4 days, because we had an enduro in there, and I forget what else. Weekly race and enduro, Midwest Tour. Seems like there was something else. Maybe it was only 3, but regardless. So she'd never been to one, and my mom had really never been to one either. My grandpa Banks worked for Exxon, and he'd been to the Indy 500, but she never got to go along, and he wasn't a race fan. And so, yeah, both McKarns women that have been through the racing ringer, so to speak, had no true background in racing. I take that back. My mom used to go drink beer underage at Hales Corners. Okay. But other than that, we were okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, did she take to it? Did your Angie take to it right away?
Yeah, I mean, she played softball and volleyball and basketball, and
okay.
So the sport aspect and the team aspect of it kind of really drew her in early on. So, but we had kids pretty early, so she would come out to Elko. She sold tickets at I-44. Elko, she would help as she could, but Al was being born, and then Rockford, Al had just been born, and then Evie was born shortly thereafter. So she was at the track, but really Madison's really when she started to shine.
Okay. You went from the track's down in Missouri up then to Elko. How long were you working over at Elko? And then were you also at lacrosse at the same time?
No,
did I get that right?
No. So I was the grunt kid at lacrosse. And then when I graduated, went to I-44, and it was just one season there. So then 2002, 3, and half of 4, we were at Elko, and that was we left there in July to go work at Rockford. And so I grew up calling Jody Deary Grandma Jody, and so it was pretty cool. It was like going back home. And so ran that for 10 years, was the general manager there for 10 years. And then basically I knew that we wanted to do something different. We made an offer to lease the track long-term at Rockford, and I don't blame them. They turned it down because, it's just the family dynamic. And so I just said, I'll help with Big 8 and special events, but we got to go find something else. And it was kind of all or nothing, and so it became nothing really quick, and would change my summer. That was my my reverse retirement, was summer of 2014. I was expecting to be working, and I wasn't, and it was very odd not to have a race to go to. But like I came up to Marshfield and helped with the show there, and I kind of just went where I was needed just to stay in it. and I guess Marshfield, I might have just been handing out fest flyers, but just go help where we can. And we always said that I was only involved in Oktoberfest, and it was because Chuck Deary had been the track manager since '87. But I had bought my parents out in '08 because we knew the end game for my dad with his cancer, and so we just wanted all that settled. But so I've always just been Oktoberfest at lacrosse, but reality was I was 50% of lacrosse from since '08, and now Chuck and I are 50-50, and we have 12 more years there, so our families will have that for 50 seasons when it's all said and done, and hopefully more. So we'll see where it goes, but we still got 12 years on the lease there with the Ag Society, so that's exciting. And so leaving Rockford, it was Dave Grunberg, who does our tires and owns Dave's White Rock and everything. Dave and I had actually looked at buying Madison earlier, and it didn't make sense. And so when the announcement came out that I was leaving Rockford, it was like 5 minutes later, the phone rang, and Dave goes, "Terry wants to talk to you." All right. So Al and I stopped there on the way to La Crosse for a street drag, and he goes, "Well, I want to hire you." So I don't want to work for anyone. He goes, "Good, you can buy it." And so then that was the start of the whole process of buying it. But then that fell apart, and that's when we bought the Midwest Tour, because Madison College came in with a cash offer, and they were going to make it a police training facility.
Yeah,
which is what they ended up doing at Columbus 151, unfortunately. And so Terry Kunis called and said, "Well, can you match it?" I said, "Terry, I have no money. Our deal was this." He goes, "Well, I think I'm going to have to do it." So in the meantime, we strike a deal with Tim Olson to buy the Midwest Tour. Mm-hmm. And I'm in Reno at our promoters meeting having lunch with multiple people, but Steve Sinclair, who is K&K Insurance and IRA Sprint Cars. I go, I feel sick that Madison's just going to be gone. Like, it doesn't get a farewell. Yeah. It doesn't, like, the gates are closed. Everyone that went to the races in September didn't know they were leaving for the last time. Like, it just doesn't sit right. He goes, "You should see if Terry will lease you the track for 1 month." And I walked right out of the restaurant. I was in the lobby, and I called Terry up. I go, "Terry, I need to lease that track for 1 month. Can you close on the deal June 1st and let me run a season, or, run 4 events in May?" He goes, "I don't feel right about it either. Let's go back to the drawing board." We went back to the drawing board, and lo and behold, we were going to buy it for 20 years, over 20 years from him, and he shot back with, "Well, can you buy it in 10 years? Man, I don't think I could do it in 10 years, but I know how to do the math on 1.1 million with 11 years. So let's do it 11 years. And I sat right there in the lobby, put foot right in the mouth. I'm like, I walked back in. I'm like, "Angie, I think we're buying Madison, but it's 11 years. I don't know how the hell we're going to do it, but we got to try it. We got to save this racetrack." And so fast forward, and it looks like our final payment will be October 31st of 2025. So just a few months away, we should have it all settled. So pretty cool.
Well, I'm glad you stayed on track there.
Yeah, it's been quite the ride. So
yeah,
glad to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, had you ever thought in your mind, "Hey, I want to buy have a track of my own at some point"?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So we had lacrosse, and
yep,
I could go work at lacrosse, but it was Chuck's track, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And he'd run it really well since '87, and we knew from my time as the maintenance kid that if I was there, we were going to butt heads more than we needed to. And so we'd looked at buying. There's so many tracks we looked at buying, from Columbus 151 to Golden Sands to Tomahawk. I mean, like, we went and had the conversations and did the numbers, and it looked like we were going to be the ones to buy the Dells heading into the 2002 season. And then that fell apart. The offer was made, and a better offer on paper came in. And so there's been a lot of twists and turns through the years of which track we'd end up with, but it all worked out, because I'm honored that the family farm is at Oregon, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I love that you call it that. I think that's hilarious.
Well, we take so much pride. We drive past. Angie's really good at it. She's like, "How do people drive home and go turn into that driveway every day? And they got the weeds growing up, and they got this. Like, got to take some pride in it." And so when we bought the track, the kids used to cry. I'd pay them $5 a bucket, so a pickle bucket full of weeds got you $5. And so the kids would go around, and I remember Al coming up and his fingers are bleeding. He's like, I go, look at these old pictures. We got a picture of of my dad, his grandpa, waving, and it's Jim Weber and Doug Herbst in turn 4 at Oregon. And it was the last Artgo show held at Oregon before they put dirt on it. And the weeds are as high as a wall, and it just looks like crap. And I'm like, is that what we want our legacy to be? Like, I want people to look back and see that we actually cared about this racetrack and painted the walls and pulled the weeds and cut the grass. And then Derek Kraus, his autograph card was taken in turn 1 that same weekend that Al came up crying because his fingers were bleeding. And so I got him an autograph card of Derek's. I go, see? Derek Kraus, autograph card, no weeds. He goes, I get it. So, and
it's all about the details.
Yep. So we take a lot. So that's why we call it the family farm. Like, we invite people there, but we're also, obviously, we're working the land to make a living for our family. And it's kind of been a neat little adventure there, and calling it that.
Yeah. When did you start the Big 8 series, or did you take that over?
So we did the first Big 8 race was in 2004.
Okay.
So there used to be a NASCAR Northern Series.
Okay.
So which was basically Deary's, McKarns', Osteich's, Fredrickson's, and then Larry Kemp out at Hawkeye, and John Darby was the tech guy who ended up in NASCAR Cup. And so it was quite the cast of characters, just from the administrative side, let alone the drivers that ran it. And then that ceased to exist. By fax machine, I was trying to buy the McLeod Gold Star Series from Larry Kemp. And then the word came that the McLeod money, which is what was going to make everything work, went to the Mid-American Series, and which I used to be the line scorer for. So that series ended. And then there was kind of a void. And when we got to Rockford, it was, well, we should try to figure out how to run these, the Madison and Columbus and Jefferson cars, which were a little different because Rockford at the time was on an American Racer slick, and they were on the Charted Goodyear short track special. So we did a Thursday night special. John Reynolds Sr. won. We had 34 entries, and we're like, wow, this is kind of cool. And we went to the auction in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it was Tom Deary, Greg Folk, and I. And of all people, Steve Einhaus was running Madison at the time. And on the way to Grand Rapids, he called and said, I want to book 2 of those Big 8 shows. And at the time, it was just a made-up name for Thursday night of National Short Track Championships. And I'm like, yeah, we'll make that work. So we kind of had an emergency breakfast at Bob Evans, and we put together the Big 8 series, and Greg Folk had the rule package just right, and the tracks all bought in, and Terry Tucker didn't buy in right away, but he saw what we were doing at Spring Classic, and he shook my hand. First time I met him, shook my hand and said, I want you to be the headliner at my Wisconsin State Championships. And I thought, man, that's so cool. He goes, but you'll never run against me. No, won't run against you. And never did. And that first year at Jefferson, we had 49 cars. I'm like, man, this is pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, I thought you'd have more cars. Like, what? So the next year we had 51. So we went back to work and kept growing it. But I mean, we averaged 40 cars a show for 10 years on that. And I always tell people that was my fishing. Like, I didn't really make a whole lot of money. The 151 show was always my promotion, and I would make a few bucks there. But it was I just loved having all those guys. It just made such great racing, and sending 16 cars home, because a 24-car field just made better racers too. Either you go home and work on it, or you don't make the show. And it was just what an awesome time to be part of it all.
Yeah, and I remember as I was kind of up and coming before I got into a super late model, it was a series that we had looked at getting into. And I mean, you had Michael Bilderback, and there was a lot of great names a part of that series. And yeah, I mean, there's so many cars at all these racetracks, and we never ended up being a part of it, but then I just ended up getting into a super late model. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a series to watch.
I want to say at one time at either Rockford or at one time we had like 7 current track champions in the field. You're like, man, that's unheard of. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was neat, and it really gave the weekly racers something to be proud of, because they could still run their weekly show and support that weekly short track program. And you see that across the nation. They've kind of robbed the weekly racetracks of cars, and now they're wondering where all the cars are. And it's kind of a sad thing to see. Like, you look, in other regions, and everything's touring and there's no weekly. And I've always been very careful not to try not to hurt the weekly short track. Like, I had 2 guys that wanted to come to Hawkeye, but they were going to skip their local track to do it. And I said, go support your weekly track. We don't, we want you to support that weekly track and keep that weekly track going, because if they're, 2 of their top guys aren't there on a weekly show, that cheats their fans too. So, yep.
Yeah, that's quite and that was actually something I had planned on asking you. Just, what, versus weekly racing versus, series stuff, what, have you, from your side of things, seen the appeal of where, maybe someone goes touring and, what takes away from the weekly, or, how does that stay in balance the right way?
It's a tough balance, and there's obviously there's varying opinions on everything. To me, a Big 8 weekly late model, that is the IMCA modified of dirt. It's the IMCA modified for asphalt. Is that Big 8 weekly late model, like what we run at Madison and La Crosse and Jefferson and Dells, and then your special event car, or your 410 sprint car, is your super late model. And obviously there's there's some gray area. There's very few tracks that can run 410 sprint cars and be sustainable. And there's very few tracks that can run super late models every week and be sustainable. And there's very few teams that can run super late models every week and be sustainable. And so to me, it's more of a special event car. And I'm so proud that all the tracks and the series that we're, it's not perfect, but even if we're all wrong, it's right on that rule package. And everyone's got different opinions on what this needs to be and that needs to be. But from guys not having to change stuff to go, whether they want to run a Tundra race at Kaukauna, or go run a weekly show at Plover, or go to Kaukauna on a Thursday night, or come run a tour race, they're set up. They're ready to go. A super late model is a super late model. A 410 sprint car is a 410 sprint car. So we got that behind us, and we'll still. You're always going to be working on it. But the same thing with the weekly late model. It's never been as close as it is right now, and our hope is that we're one rule book here in the next couple of years.
Okay, yeah, because really at your track at Madison, the only time the super late models come is a special event, right?
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
So we run the supers 3 times a year, 2 Midwest Tour shows, and then the ASA Stars National Tour Father's Day weekend. And our weekly guys, you can run a full season at Madison, so it's 13 features and 7 nights. It is the weekly program at Madison. Okay. And then we have 2 Big 8 specials that guys can choose to run if they want to or not. So we got one coming up here in a few weeks, and it's the days of guys being at the racetrack or families being at the racetrack every week. There's people that want to do that, and I think if they're on the same rule platform, like a Jacob Gady he can run across the state and he's leading the NASCAR weekly championship points right now and going for a second national title. It's pretty cool, right? But to the same point, Bobby Wilberg wants to run at Madison. He can run at Madison. Sean and Steven Shield, they can run both Jefferson and Madison. You can choose what you want to run and how much you want to run. So we just kind of found a happy medium there at Oregon, and we're, knock on wood, we're averaging over 20 cars a night in the late models, and our 6-shooter entry-level classes, I stole those I was doing a thrill show in Ohio, and I thought it was like the best rule package I'd ever seen. And we brought those in, and we're over 20 of those a night. And our misfits, of all things, we just had our record car count of 19. And I'm trying to put a lot of effort into that. And that's a timed class. And so a lot of people can say a lot of different things about a time class, but I also ran the Bahama Brackets at Rockford for 10 years. And I know that there's hobbyist racers out there that just want to go race and have fun. And if you watch like the sportsman class and the cubic dollars that guys are spending trying to keep up in the sportsman class while keeping OEM stock parts and all the bushings and the shocks and all the crap that we deal with to try to keep the cost of racing down. And then we're just circumventing the rule to get a little faster. It's like, man, what are we doing? Like, we were getting 6 to 8 cars on the half mile at Madison, and we would try bounties and free NASCAR licenses. I mean, we tried about everything to get cars there, but the brakes and everything else, it's like, man, we just need to do something different. So we came up with this idea. We've adopted it at lacrosse. Slinger has a version of it. It's basically based off drag racing, but the simple terms is a 20-second lap. Don't go faster than 20 seconds. You get one mulligan a race where you can be up to 0.3 quicker, and the time changes. They draw a chip every week in victory lane, and that's the time for the next one. So it's imperfect, but it's perfect for the guy that just wants to come out and race, because you got guys that are 602 late model guys that won't make the icebreaker show, but they can be running top 5 because just don't go fast. You want to put a big spoiler on there? Don't really care. What? You want to run that transmission because it's sitting in your garage? Okay, that's fine. Don't go faster than 20 seconds. Oh, but I can run a 4-barrel carburetor? Yep, I really don't care. Like, just if it's about the only rule is if it's a stock stub, it can run any engine. If it's a fab stub, it needs a 602 crate engine. Other than that, and an 8-inch tire. Other than that, trucks can run a 10-inch. So if you ever want to come down and try it out. But
okay, I remember your offer earlier this year. Yeah,
but it's just and it's going to take some time for people to wrap their heads around it. But we were over 200 entries a year at the Bahama brackets at Rockford, so I know those guys are out there. And it's just a matter of them discovering it and embracing it. So
yeah, that's really cool. I knew it was a timed class, but I never knew all the other aspects of it. So that's interesting. But yeah, it's a cool deal for a lot of people.
You want to run your super late model shocks on there? Don't go faster than 20 seconds. You'll be okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So
run what you got in your garage.
Yeah, run what you got. So, and we just put a time cap on it and let it go. So I was tickled pink. I thought maybe we'd be 14. We ended up with 19 Friday night. Maybe it was a fluke, but we're that's definitely where we're going to be putting more and more effort into, and obviously all the classes. But if I have 20 to 25 late models and 16 misfits and 20 to 25 6-shooters on any given Friday night, I'm pretty happy with it.
Gotcha. Now, we were talking about the Big 8 series, and then you left the Big 8 series to then pick up the Midwest Tour, right?
Well, because we formed Big 8 while I was employed at Rockford, it was Rockford's.
Okay.
So that's essentially why I left, or not why I left, but that's why Big 8 was no longer a Gregg run operation.
Okay.
And I wasn't expecting to buy the Midwest Tour, but then when the Madison deal fell apart, it's like, well, I'd like to try to do this because there was some things going on. And I'm a firm believer that, we got a Oktoberfest, Fest is best, and that's the headline deal there. So I felt like we could do a little better job than what was happening, and so we picked that up. And then on the backside, ended up getting the track too. But we were used to 50 to 60 events a year that we were promoting or being a part of. So it was, while it was scary, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Then when you got the Midwest Tour, but then you ended up with Madison. Then at that point, was that overwhelming at probably the beginning of it, or?
Yeah, you just work harder.
Yeah,
not smarter. We just work harder. That's all we can do. But I mean, I think between Rockford and Big 8 were like 58 events a year that we were pretty involved in. So I knew we could pull it off. But obviously, I was talking to Terry Tucker the other day. I said, it's really a different deal when you're in the jet fighter's seat and you're the one pulling the trigger on everything. Because even as the general manager at I-44 or working at lacrosse or working for the Deeries at Rockford, you're like, I would do this or I would do that. And then when you're the one that it all falls on your shoulders and you're trying to figure out how to make payroll this week, it's definitely a different feeling.
Yeah, I would imagine. What has been What's been the most challenging thing taking over Madison that maybe you weren't expecting?
Really, when we bought it, I thought that the trucks were going to be our sportsman class. But then there was this whole war in the truck series but there was the ethanol deal, and then there was the Midwest trucks. Well, then ethanol decided that they were going to be weekly at 151 on Friday night. And that really screwed up my weekly program with the Midwest truck basis rules as our sportsman class, because that's a nice 10-inch tire, 602. They race well at our track. I've always raced well at our track. They started at our track. And so when I came in, I'm like, well, we'll have our, the Big 8 style late model, and then we'll have the truck, and then we'll have the Bandits on the Ring of Fire, our quarter-mile track. And so I feel like I've been chasing my tail for 11 years, trying to get that right middle class, because I know the 6-shooters is the right class for the Ring of Fire. I believe in our late model class. I just saw Greg Folk the other night and thanked him for setting us up for, we're 20 years later and we're still running the basic rule package that he set up for us, because, promoters are dumb, especially when it comes to rules. And so, if we have a guideline to follow, we do a lot better than when we're sitting out there treading water. So we're very thankful for that. But I just felt like, so then the trucks weren't an option. So then we'll do the sportsman. So then we did the sportsman. We had some really loyal guys. Well, how do you got these guys that support you every week. How do you just crap on them and say, hey, we're not going to run your cars anymore. We're going to go do this, or we're going to go do that. So that's kind of how the whole Misfits class came to be. So again, it might be a fluke because we've had some struggles with car count in that class this year too. But like I said, we're going to keep after it and make it right. And hopefully guys' minds will come around and realize that this isn't the worst thing in the world for racing. It works on drag racing, so why it can't work on a circle track? Well, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, it was very interesting. It's I'm glad you kind of walked us through, the details all behind that. It's very interesting and kind of a clever thing to come up with. Just so guys can utilize what's going on in their garage and bring it to the racetrack.
Exactly.
Yeah, but no, and another thing I want to kind of go back on too is I really liked your thought on the comparison of the super late model to the 410 sprint car. It's kind of a special thing. It is, as much as I like seeing super late models at Racing Weekly somewhere. It's getting tougher. It's getting tougher, and I think people need to make sure they adapt to the time so that everything can just kind of keep moving forward and we can keep seeing race cars at racetracks.
And I'm a little brother, so you learn, like when your big brother steals a cookie and he gets in trouble, you're like, well, I have to be smarter about how I steal that cookie, but I'm still going to steal it. But you learn, and so you watch the West Coast and what they're doing with their schedules out there, and it's kind of a shared schedule. So they'll race at one track one week, and this track the second week, and this track the third week, and then they, it's on a rotation. So this track's running every third week or every second week. And we're not to that point, and I hope we never get there. And but it's just, it is a tough nut, even for a weekly driver, to buy one tire a night. And you look at we can get into the cost of everything from shocks to bodies to tires to wheels to rear ends. We can go through all that, but the fact of the matter is that the majority of the manufacturers that we're dealing with now, you're not calling Coleman Racing Products and Gene Coleman's answering the phone, right? They got a receptionist, and that receptionist has a 401k and a full benefits, and it's like, man, I don't have that. I told one manufacturer, I said, just put me on your benefit plan, and we'll figure the rest out. But I don't need sponsor money. Just put my family on that so that we can actually have dental for our kids and vision and all these things that we don't have as small business owners. But you look, you go through all those, every part on the race car, there's a receptionist and there's probably an engineer, and there's all sorts of people on the payroll that they didn't have. So of course the cost is going to go up, unfortunately. So, oh well.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to operating a racetrack, let's just look specifically at Madison, where everything is yours. I mean, what is it on a day-to-day basis? What does it really look like for someone that's owning and promoting a racetrack?
Well, there's a lot of owners that own a racetrack because it looks good in their portfolio. There's not too many of them in our area, but throughout the nation you have those. There's a lot of us that have racetracks that are trying to make a living at it or in their retirement or what have you. I always say I take Mondays off, but that's just so people don't bother me so I can actually get stuff done. But I'm there, I'm there every Monday, and we race. We're 2 Thursdays a month with street drags between the 2 paved tracks. We're every Friday essentially at Madison, every Saturday at La Crosse, or we have a tour race somewhere, and then we run 10 Sundays at Angel Park on the dirt there in Sun Prairie. So we're pretty busy, but it's you got to get your orders in, and luckily, like I say, we have a good team. So I have the A team. I have Al and Angie are at Madison with me. Austin is up at La Crosse. Alex is at Angel Park. So Alex started working for us when he was 14. He was a little kid waving the flags at a Big 8 race.
Okay.
And I told his parents when he turns 14, I want him to come work for me. And that's grown into, from being the flag man, he still waves the sticks on Friday nights, but he's at the helm there at Angel Park on Sundays. Austin was my right-hand man when we bought Madison, and he grew up there. His parents still work there. And so, like, he had his eighth birthday party up in the suites, right? Like, it's like the kid grew up at the racetrack.
Yeah.
And when we bought it, Terry Kunis goes, Austin Wells, he's the real deal. And this guy's owned car dealerships all over the region. And he's telling me, and like, yeah, he's right. And so it was kind of it was almost not a holding pattern, but we knew Austin was destined for bigger things. And so when we got Angel Park, it was basically we handed him the keys, and we didn't know it. We still don't know a damn thing about prepping a dirt track. Just ask the 70 guys that were there 2 weeks ago. But it's we handed him the keys, and he did an awesome job. And then now Alex is in that role because Chuck retired at La Crosse. But so we got some youth initiative going, and that's pretty cool. Because if I wasn't going to be a racetrack promoter, I always wanted to be a teacher. And so I feel like being able to teach these guys how to be successful, and kind of my whole focus right now is Copart, which is they're a salvage yard company. They figured out that short tracks have the right zoning for what they want to do with the land. And it was either 26 or 29 tracks they bought and closed last year throughout the nation. And you hear that, and that's a scary deal, because when a racetrack goes away, it doesn't come back. Very rarely, right? There's a Mansfield, and he's spending $20 million. Well, most guys that are dumb enough to do this are so dumb that we don't have $20 million in our pocket. Everything we do is sweat equity, right? So you can't be doing that. And my hat's off to Matt Tiff for buying that. But
it's cool to watch.
It's not realistic in here in the real world. Yeah, those are the outliers. But then there's these other deals. So kind of my vision or my goal is to keep as many short tracks throughout the nation open as we can. And that's why we go to Reno every year, and people think, oh, they're out there having fun. And you're damn right we're having fun. We deserve to have some fun. But we're also out there learning, and we're teaching, and that's, like I said, that's where the whole Midwest Tour deal came up with. I've had promoters from Texas that, looked at my rules and said, well, you should do this. And like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, you just sit there and you get like minds in the same room, and good things happen. So we make sure that we go to Reno every year to the promoters workshops. We started the promoters of Wisconsin Auto Racing. We have a group. We were over 50 people this spring at it. It's just we meet twice a year, but opens up communication, and we all talk about what we're doing new, what worked, what didn't work, what promotions worked. It's at the end of the day, it's about getting racers through the gate, but we got to sell tickets to make this all work. And then we go to Daytona every year, and you're damn right we have fun. Angie puts together the Midwest's Best Party, and we have some fun with that, but we also have our promoters meetings and learn, share, and do all that. So just trying to keep all these tracks afloat and making good business decisions. And sometimes you look at it and you scratch your head and wonder what people are doing, but then eventually they come around and realize that they should attend these meetings. And it's amazing what you can learn from people that have been doing it. I learned from everyone from Earl Baltus to Tom Curley to Bob Lawton, all these guys are heroes to me. And when you get to sit in a room or have a beer with them or play lose at Texas Hold'em with them, you do pick up a thing or two.
Yeah. Now you had talked about your parents telling you as you were growing up, hey, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. Do you tell your kids the same thing? And where's their interest level at with the racing and what they're up to?
Yeah, we think Al's going to eventually take over Madison. He's a senior going into senior year at lacrosse, and he interned at Gateway or Worldwide Technology Raceway. He went back down there and worked the IndyCar race, and he's got a good relationship with those guys. So he'll be in racing, but I guess time will tell. Right now, the target is MIS for him, but he can do anything he wants. Our daughter, she likes racing. She doesn't hate racing, but I don't think it'll be her career path, but maybe it will. So she's going to be a freshman at Whitewater, but whatever she wants to do, we'll support 100%, because this is not the easiest lifestyle. I mean, it's a lot of work and a lot of stress, and between the weather and the heat and local ordinances and everything else, there's a lot of different moving parts to deal with throughout each race season.
Yeah, the weather. It's something I don't envy, having to make those decisions.
I pay $1,400 a year for a weather app so that I can make
really?
the best decisions I can. And then I make said decisions after hours of poring over it. And then I'll be told online how stupid I am. It's awesome. There's no better feeling.
So you just love spending time scrolling through the comments on Facebook, I'm guessing.
I actually gave up Facebook 6 years ago. And it's Ron Drager with ARCA told me, he goes, if something serious is on there, you'll hear about it anyways. I'm like, that's a good point. And Al had been all conference as a sophomore at tackle, and the two kids in front of him got Big Ten full rides in football. It's like, man, this is awesome, man. I coached him all through youth football, and this is pretty cool. I put his highlight video out that he made. Some guy went on and was bitching at me about something that happened in July, and I don't even remember what event it was, because the checkered flag waved on that one. My dad used to always say that the checkered flag waved on that, and some people just want to. And the internet's given a voice to some very negative people, unfortunately. So I just cut that out of my life and kept a little bit of hair because of it.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, probably does. Probably keeps the color a little bit right too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Over the next 5, 10, 20 years, what do you think it'll take for short track racing to keep growing? To keep going, but also to keep growing, because like anything, it has to grow to stay alive.
I mean, you go to PRI, and there's a lot of interest in racing. It might not all be circle track. The thing that's keeping Madison alive, our weekly shows are solid. Joe Shear Classic, Howie Leto Classic are really good. We've learned that thrill shows, I've done thrill shows in 8 states that I've produced. Back in my youth, I used to go produce thrill shows to try to make extra money to buy diapers. We have been just a terrible failure of doing thrill shows at Madison. We used to sell out at Rockford, but just for whatever reason, I think it's because the arena is too far from the stands at Madison, because Madison's built for late models, and USAC Silver Crown and the like is not made for trailer races and double spin to win and all that. We tried it for 3 years and just failed. So luckily street drags have filled that void for us, and we do 6 street drag events a year, and most of them are over 200 bracket entries and big crowds. It's a fun Thursday night at the racetrack. So there's still plenty of interest in motorsport. And Cletus McFarland, Al was telling me about him. No, you know who he is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm old. So I'm standing at PRI, and we're at some function, and everyone's staring at this guy standing next to me. I got my beer in my hand, and I look up at him because he's like 6'7". Like, you must be somebody famous. He goes, well, I'm Cletus McFarland. I'm like, no shit, my kid was just telling me about you. Like, how cool is this? And so I talked to him. We're far from being fast friends or anything, but it's like, I should pay attention to what he's doing. And you pay attention to what he's doing. It's like, man, this is pretty good. Like, people still care about this stuff. It's just maybe a 200 lap feature isn't necessarily what it needs to be, but I'm still going to run 200 lap features because I'm old and people do like them and support them and buy tickets. But you see what he's doing, and it's kind of the motorsport reimagined, if you will. And so people walk around and say that there's no car culture anymore. But you look at, I went to a Formula Drift show in Long Beach, California, and checked that out, and there were 16,000 people. And the hair on my arm stood up, and I thought, man, this is awesome. Absolutely awesome. This is too cool. And then, you look at Road America and what they're doing there. There's still plenty of car enthusiasts and plenty of motorsports enthusiasts. It's just, there's a lot of choices. It's more than just, it's more than the Southern 500 isn't the only motorsport event happening in South Carolina right now.
Right.
It's a different dynamic and a different landscape. So we'll keep adjusting and keep after it.
Some thrill shows. I mean, so we're talking like, the trailer races and.
Let me tell you about my life.
Okay.
I bust tail to get super late miles to Jefferson every Memorial Day weekend for the Salute the Troops 100 on Saturday night. And we'll park cars out to the road, and we've had some really good crowds there and really good racing there. Like, that track is just awesome. It truly is Wisconsin's action track. 3 wide racing, like, it's just cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very next night, double the crowd. And it's 90 jalopies, 4 bangers with spray paint numbers and door plates going out there and knocking the snot out of each other. And the place is packed, like packed.
Yeah.
Angie and I will go sell beer for them. It's insane. It actually, like, what did we do last night? Because last night was pretty good, but this is a lot less work and a lot more profit. But I guess, and the same thing at lacrosse, and it was the same way at Rockford. And, like Slinger's got their Slam Fest now, and Dell's has their Labor Day of Doom, and it's great that all these tracks are doing this, because really Roger Van Dijk started it at Kaukauna, and Danny has taken it to the next level. He and Ginger continue to sell out and make it bigger and better, and it's just it's cool because those events need to happen. It introduces new people to our short tracks, and maybe you'll get a fan out of it, but at the end of the day, it makes the bait count a lot better and keeps those tracks open.
Yeah. And I've always assumed that. I mean, I've definitely seen an influx with them, over the last several years, and and I don't go to many of them. I've only been to a couple in my life. I enjoy them. I just tend to stay away sometimes, and the times I have gone to them, I'm like, God, where are all these people on a Friday or Saturday night for the other race? Our races.
I still sponsor my wrestling team, that pure high school wrestling, collegiate wrestling. I haven't been to a WWE or WWF show since the 1980s. Right? Like, I'm a purist of that. That's not for me. And so I think in the realm of racing, we have the purists, and I think you and I are following that deal. But that said, when you're standing there during reverse retirement in mesh shorts and sandals, and you're lighting up a jet car for Doug Rose, it gets your attention. So there are some cool parts to it, but there's definitely that purist aspect to it. Like, why are you running this stuff? Angel Park, we get yelled at for bringing the Dirt Kings dirt late models in, because why are we bringing taxi cabs to an open wheel track? Like, I'm like, because all the open wheel fans are at Knoxville. So I'm going to run midgets, but I'm also going to run IMCA modifieds and dirt late models tonight. And we have nice crowds with it, but it's humorous to me. It's like, well, we're doing this because of this, and it's not, it's one time a year, but they're just like, nope, it's how dare you? It's like, well, kind of got to do it to have a show. So that said, I said Chuck Deary retired, so we've taken a few trips now during his retirement. And we ended up going to Ventura for the Turkey Night Grand Prix. And we're out on, so it's basically California Mountain, the 101 Expressway, the racetrack, the beach, the ocean. It's like one of the best settings in all of motorsports. It's so cool. And Angie and I went out there during COVID and brought Route 66 back, but we stopped by and went to a Beach Boys concert next door and everything. So I'm like, well, we got to go back for a race. So Chuck and I go back for a race. And we're sitting out on the beach and the bonfire's going, having a couple barley pops, and the guys across from us, they don't have a clue who either of us are, nor should they. And they're talking about Badger Midgets and how Badger Midgets is the best open wheel program in America right now. And we averaged 34 midgets that year. And you're sitting there, and it's like, we're in California, sitting on a beach, drinking a beer, and these guys are talking about something we're part of. Like, it's pretty cool to hear.
Oh, for sure.
And to see Angie and I, that used to be our date night on Sunday nights. And again, I think we could do a better job. And I feel like we have, but there we're reliant on the sanctioning bodies. So we don't have anything to do with anything from a rule call or, a call on the track, a DQ for tech, any of that. We have nothing to do with it. We just hire the sanctioning bodies in, and they handle all that. And so we can just worry about selling tickets and hot dogs. And it's kind of a cool change of pace.
Yeah.
But I bring it up because what Badger's done, it just proves that we can bring something back, because we would be there on date nights and there'd be like 12 cars. And then they had to bring the legends in, and they had micro sprints, and they filled the void there. But the midgets are always, it's the home of the mighty midgets. It's like Lambeau Field for the Green Bay Packers. Angel Park is for midgets. We just pushed a 1938 midget off the other night it was way too cool. Out there going, like, I couldn't imagine them things at speed. Anyways, but now they've brought it back. We had 31 midgets Sunday. We had 30 legend cars, and we had 18 360 MSA sprints, but they'd wrecked a few the night before. So, I mean, we would have had 20 there. So that's pretty darn strong, I think. And then you see the car counts at other tracks. So I think we're in a good spot. And someone asked me the other day about it, kind of along the same lines. Well, how do you feel about, the future? I said, well, we have good entry-level divisions. And there's dollars and cents, right? There's some guys are buying a used pickup truck, and some guys are buying the brand new 4x4 2500 diesel off the lot. It's just the facts of life.
Yep.
But we have entry-level classes that meet all of those, check all those boxes, and they're all strong right now. The 6 cylinders are strong. The 4 cylinders are strong. The legends are strong. The trucks are strong. We have all these feeder, and if we can keep those strong, history says that those guys continue the progression up. And some of them don't, but enough of them do, and it keeps feeding the top. And as long as we can keep feeding the bottom, I think we'll be good for a long time to come. We just need to be smart enough to take care of them.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good way to look at it, because I think you're right. If you do keep feeding the bottom, you got to keep young talent coming in, and, hopefully the opportunities, present themselves for them, and they find a way to make things work to end up where, their racing goals or dreams are, if that's, running a NASCAR late model, or if it's, running a super late model or a Midwest truck or whatever it is. And yeah, I think that's the good way to go about it. And actually, on that topic too, talk about the High School Racing Association, because I think that is super neat, because now the kids can letter in that, right?
Yeah.
At their high school?
Yeah.
Okay. I had heard that. I'm like, that is awesome.
So that came out of the Reno workshops. So you'll learn, Chuck has kind of become my dancing partner on a lot of different things. So Chuck, Matt Rowe with the Impact Survival Series, and I were the main guys to get Power going, the promoters of Wisconsin Auto Racing. So anyways, we're there, and was it Moderna? There's a track in California that starts with an M. I'm getting older. But they have junior late models. And it was, I think at that time, it was a $60,000 buy-in to run, I think, 6 races. So $10,000 a race. Just to get your feet wet. It's like, man, like, if a kid wants to play basketball, I can go down to the hardware store, buy him a basketball, and he can shoot at a hoop at the local park. And if he doesn't like it, the dog can chew on the basketball, right?
Right.
Like, this investment to get in here is just, and again, there are economic ladders, and there are people that are going to fill that rung on that ladder. Mm-hmm. But we went to lunch, and I said, man, that just seems like a lot. And I really believe in that 6-shooter rule package. I said, what? And so we just started brainstorming, and out of it grew HSRA. So Jonathan Eckelberg, who was our, he raced a Hornet, which is the 4-cylinder. He was the entry-level guy there. And I think he might have been like a year after. I was put in charge of the Hornets in the late 1900s when they first started. And they used to draw a wristband for their heat race with a number on it and a wristband for their feature. We would have 60-plus cars. It was awesome. So Jonathan kind of came through the whole ranks. His dad had a late model. He eventually came into a late model, raced in the late models, but he was leaving. But he's got the right frame of mind and can go in front of a school board and do those things and doesn't swear like I did 15 minutes ago. And so we approached him about being the guy to do this, because we tried it 1 year on our own, and we're, all it takes is someone's fuel cell being too low and getting DQ'd, and it's 10 hours of our life is just gone. And so it kept getting put on the back burner. Like, we got to get this to the front burner because it's important. And so now he's got it where certain schools are letting kids letter in it. I think our high car count was at Toma Sparta this year. We had 18. I mean, that's pretty darn cool. You got 18 kids. And a lot of them are that guy that had a Thunder stock or the grandkid of someone who used to race, and here they're building a car and they're back into racing. And then you have kids that have never even been to the racetrack, and they show up and they decide that they want to try this. Like McFarland School District, we're trying to work through the red tape there, but they want to have 2 cars out there and rotate drivers. So it's a lot of the schools in Dane County have it's a formula car, and they run it at the Motoplex at Road America. They do a deal at Madison. They do a deal at La Crosse every October, the Monday after Oktoberfest. So they it's not that that they weren't racing or automotively minded. They just didn't have a feasible, financially available option to be on the circle track. And now they do, and it's pretty cool to see. Like, you go, so we were the Jostens gives a ring to the champion. I mean, like the same type of ring that the Cup champion gets, the champion of the High School Racing Association, the national champion gets. And that Kent Bruns, who lives up north, we were behind him getting a beer in Indy at PRI, and I said, hey, we're starting this deal. We'd really like you to come on board. He goes, send me the info. And I mean, they just accepted it and designed the ring, and you get to see that kid get the ring put on there. It's so cool just to see that.
Awesome.
And again, if I wasn't a promoter, I would want to be a teacher. So it's just kind of giving back to that deal. And Jonathan's done a great job with it. We got tracks in Minnesota now. Before COVID hit, we had tracks in 8 states that were interested in it, and then kind of some ownerships have changed and everything else.
Okay.
But it's really strong in Wisconsin. It's getting going in Illinois. Minnesota's had some races. Of all places, the Bonneville Salt Flats, the high school in Bonneville wants to build a car and just come out and do a swing for like 2 weeks and run high school races in Wisconsin. So we're like, well, we could probably get this going out there. So we'll see what happens. But the rule package is right. We've got those cars are available. The kids can work on them. Kids can learn how to weld, do sponsorship, and all those things. So pretty neat to at least get it started, and then being able to hand the baton off and let someone else really run with it.
Right. Yeah. And so the kids are going out and searching for sponsorships and all that to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's about every one of them's got sponsors on there.
Okay.
And maybe it's the auto body shop is it's no different than Superlights or anyone, right? The body shop that painted the car, he's on there, and the auto parts store that gave you a 20% discount on the rotors that you needed, he's on there. And yeah, it's just and it gives it, there's that small town pride too.
Right.
So it's kind of cool. So
that's
where it grows.
Yeah, that's neat, because I think there's a lot of things that a lot of other sports can teach you, and I'm probably biased, but then there's also me having been involved in other sports, but then also in motorsports, I'm like, well, there's some other things like, going and getting a sponsor and those types of relationships and building. I'm like, well, there's a lot of things like I've learned from being involved in this that I don't really get that out of the other sports. And
I told the one school board, I'm like, look at this. You can have the marketing class can be involved. The art class with graphic design can be involved. The auto shop can be involved. I mean,
there's a lot of high schools with vinyl cutters too.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different levels at this, and you can involve these kids. In the one school, they have a couple cars running. They're like, there's 33 kids that are involved in this car that weren't involved in. They weren't involved in baseball. They weren't involved in football. They weren't involved in any other extracurricular activities. But now they're involved with this, and that's pretty cool. And like I say, the majority, 98.7% of the people at the racetrack on any given night are really good people, hardworking people, trustworthy. And so sometimes those kids being able to be around them and learning from them isn't the worst thing either.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, that is awesome. And now talking about, that being another division that you have, and I know you're not on Facebook, so I had put out one of the things that I've always kind of thought about when I go to a racetrack, whether I'm there racing or if I do go to spectate, is the amount of divisions that may be there on a particular night. Have you found a sweet spot balance as far as, how many divisions you have on, a Friday night or a Saturday night over at La Crosse? And it was funny because actually it was a couple days later or maybe it was a couple weeks later after I put it out, Kenny Wallace had one of his 10, 15-minute rants on Coffee with Kenny in the morning about, however many divisions and races getting over too late. But, have you found a sweet spot as far as number of divisions?
Yeah, I actually did a debate with a promoter from Michigan because he was running 7 and 8 divisions. And so
after this, tell me those racetracks so I never go there.
Yeah, exactly. I've been to those tracks, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, but everyone's got a different way of making chili. There's a lot of different recipes. So my recipe is, so Angel Park has taught me a lot. I thought I knew a lot, but like when we have 410 sprints or USAC midgets, it's them plus Badger. So it's 2 division. It's a 2-division show, plain and simple. And that's it. And so if you look at Joe Shear Classic, that used to be 3 divisions. It's 2 now. And it works so much better. And weekly we're 4 divisions at Madison. Still trying to figure out, we had 6 divisions at La Crosse, but we still got done at a decent hour. So Austin must know what he's doing there. But it's I'm a 4-division guy. Special events are 2. Our 100-lap standard Midwest Tour shows are 3. Dells, we do 3. We got the 602s in there because it's amongst their championship battle and what have you. But, yeah, basically whatever divisions we need to be done by 10:30. And that's kind of where we hit. And some nights we get done early. Some nights we get done a little later. But, for the majority of it, we're right in that 9:50 to 10:10. And we know what works for us. And, certain divisions, take a little longer, but you play through it. But again, my goal, I want that kid sitting in the driver's seat, holding the steering wheel, getting his picture taken after the races with his checkered flag and the autograph card. Yeah. And our drivers, all of them do it, at all the tracks, do such a good job with the autograph cards and candy on the deck lid and all those things. And that helps make race fans. And that I talked about that family pricing. Roger Van Duyk and Frank Welch at Grundy, so Roger at Wisconsin International. I mean, they've always had the kid price free, and there's something to be said for that. And so the family price has kind of been our way of doing that. We do kids free nights and what have you. But if we can introduce them and keep them coming back, it's what we need to do.
Yeah, and I think that had always been kind of my heartburn with, there was the time aspect that was, hey, we got 6 or so divisions here tonight. This is going to take a while or whatever. But that's really kind of where my heartburn came with it. It was like, I signed like 3 autographs today. And I was like, well, no one really came down. Or heck, I gotta go and race tomorrow, and I may not have to race to the evening, but now it's 11:30. I gotta try and head to the shop yet. I gotta go and unload this thing and switch it over for tomorrow. Well, it's 4 or 5 a.m. bedtime. Get a little sleep so we can go race again. And I was like, why do I race 2 days in a row? Like, why am I doing this to myself? And it's like, oh, if we could just get done like a little bit earlier, like this would make life easier for jumping around. And there's the guys that race a whole heck of a lot more than I do, and that do that. But yeah, like that's where my heartburn with that came from.
Well, everyone's kind of in luck in our camp, because I like to be done early, and then I like to open pit gates late. So I've been like the first few years of the tour, like we'd be leaving the track. So we're living in the suites at Madison, and we'd be leaving at 7 a.m. after going to bed at midnight. But that meant that we were up loading the trailer because we didn't do it the night before, and all that. Like, yeah. So like Hawkeye, we opened at 2:00 in the afternoon, and we still managed to tech all the cars and have practice and do all those things. It's just like, we don't have to be at the racetrack all day. It's okay. And hopefully people are coming around to that.
Yeah. Now, is there anything that you've so far, when it's come to, being a part of a series, owning a racetrack now, that and you don't have to give away any of your, secret ideas you may have burned in the back of your mind, but is there anything that you've really wanted to do and try and pull off, but you just haven't, that would bring fans in, or just would add to the overall program, that you just haven't been able to do yet?
Well, I feel like we've expanded. We brought Dixieland back, or Gandrew Auto Group 250 at Kaukauna. I wanted to do a truck race, and I had a sponsor lined up, but NASCAR, it turns out that concrete walls around a dirt track aren't as hard as concrete walls around a paved track. So they wanted me to put safer barriers in, which would be $1.3 million at the time. So we didn't do that, and I wish we had. And so I've been, I got a few different ideas, and the NASCAR truck deal, I keep preaching, and no one listens. But if we could take that back to the short tracks, SRX proved it. It can work. It truly can work. And if they took 6 races out of their schedule, and I can split the country into 6 regions, and each region gets a truck race, and now maybe one year it's at Berlin, and the next year it's at Madison, and the next year it's at Eldora. And maybe Madison isn't part of that, but you could take these, and Stafford should definitely have one. But you go out to Kern County and in Bakersfield, what a beautiful track. And it's like 80 plus feet wide and banked, and they did it right. They got there's no opening in the wall. They got a tunnel that a semi can go through under turn 1 and 2. And the infield is low enough that they can park all the semis, and the fans in the stands can see every inch of the racetrack. So why don't they have a truck race? It makes no sense to me. Like, why do the trucks have to race at Kansas? Who the hell wants to watch that?
I mean, because, yeah, you really think about where, when you look at, was it 94 was when the trucks first kind of came around, and, 94, 95, 96, where were they running at?
They're Colorado National, and they were, so why can these tracks not have them now? And it just doesn't, it rubs me wrong that they don't do it. And I understand the economies of scale and all the savings they have because their officials are already there. But like, we don't need truck races at some of these venues and the short tracks. So there's like no connection from upper levels of NASCAR to the short track anymore. Like trying to get a driver. By the way, Eric Jones is going to be at Dixieland August 5th. I got his entry today. But
awesome.
But in saying that, there's very few connections between Cup and the short track now. And you got the Bobby Allison book over here. And Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip, those guys came and they were part of my parents' Art Go shows, and they were part of ASA shows. And, the one Dale Earnhardt would come run, and he ran, the 1 year Rusty Wallace, it was 89, Rusty Wallace and Alan Kowicki and Earnhardt, they were all at the Milwaukee Mile. Well, of course the stands are going to be packed. What do you expect? Like, that's what we need.
Yeah.
And SRX proved it. And unfortunately, they spent more than they should have in hindsight, and some of us were questioning it as it was happening. But there's TV money, and there's other monies involved in there that a short track promoter like me probably don't understand. probably don't need to, but they're not around anymore. But the grandstands were full, right? So if all of a sudden you got, Kenny Wallace, you brought him up, he can be somewhere and he sells some more tickets, not a ton more, not like Rusty did back in the day, but he's still, he gives a boost at the gate, and it's probably a feel good and for the track and everything else. And he's a great guy and ambassador of the sport, right? But you try to get Chase Elliott. How do you get Chase Elliott to come to your race right now? I haven't figured that one out. Sometimes you luck out and William Byron wants to come run, but it's usually there's no direct route, and it's so it's a little frustrating. But I feel like the truck deal should be able to go, and then if there's a way that the short tracks could infiltrate the aisles of Walmart, I think we'd be better off too. So I was always preaching to NASCAR back when Madison was a NASCAR track. Now Lacrosse and Dells are NASCAR tracks, but Madison isn't anymore, mainly because of the scheduling and just trying to do what I felt needed to happen to make that track succhands
I guess I didn't even realize that Madison wasn't a NASCAR track anymore. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't been for 2 years now.
2 years, okay.
Yeah, so our hands were just kind of tied with some of the sanctioning stuff and the way your schedule had to be. So we had to cut loose on that. But I always if we could go in Walmart, you guys have all these ads running during Daytona to support your local short track. Well, why can't we have a NASCAR home track week at Walmart and have M&Ms and Coca-Cola be on the end caps and a race car on display handing out schedules or coupons or free kids tokens or whatever the case may be. And then you start looking at the Walmarts that are, take every NASCAR home track, the weekly tracks, and you look at the Walmarts that are in the area. It's like, man, this could be a slam dunk. And obviously there's a lot to do, but we just need to keep introducing new people, because when they do come out, they tend to like, it's a sensory overload, short track racing is. So once you get them through the gate, it's you can usually get them back a few times. So that's a challenge we'll continue to chase, but it's cool now with online ticket sales. So COVID absolutely, we should be out of business, and we were fortunate that we were diversified enough that we could do other things. Steve Sinclair had us come in. I was a scapegoat. I knew if a breakout happened at Wilmot Father's Day weekend of 2020, I was going to be all over the news as the guy that was brash enough to run a race Father's Day of 2020 at Wilmot, because I knew exactly what I was, but that really kept us afloat from a financial standpoint, being able to go in, and we handled the ticket sales and everything. So that was my first dirt promotion too, so that was kind of cool. And a Dirt Kings race, but we were able, with Lacrosse being able to open and being able to do Midwest Tour shows, we went and helped anywhere and everywhere we could. We taught people how to pop popcorn and just whatever we could do to help. But I'm glad it was us, and that out of that we were able to get to Angel Park. But all that said, the online ticketing is easier than ever now. I can shoot messages right to all the people that bought tickets at Madison, and I couldn't do that in 2019. And now we have a lot of online buyers, so that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're reaching them through social media and everything else, but we weren't capturing their data. So I think that's really cool. And you listen to the drift guys, all the geofencing and everything that they've done at their events, and you listen to that, it's like, man, well, this all makes sense. Like, you've captured all this data now. And so Formula Drift's doing it. Well, I guess Midwest Tour needs to start doing it. So, we're trying to do those things. So that's really cool that's come out of that. And then the streaming, I went to Lucas Oil Speedway. Dan Robinson was running it. He used to be my infield marshal at I-44. And then Forrest Lucas hires him, and he's promoter of the year and running this. But they got the jumbo board, which was, none of us had any of that. Yeah. And I went down there, and there's 6 guys needed on staff to run this, just to put a feed to the fans in the stands. Well, this doesn't make any sense financially. We can't do that. And so it was kind of a, not going to happen. Well, then COVID comes. Now everyone wants to stream every race. They're tripping over themselves to try to stream whatever content we got. And now you don't have to pay anyone to do this. You used to have to pay to have Speed 51 come cover an event, and I refused to do it. And it's why am I paying you to come cover my event so you can sell advertising and make money off of my back? I don't follow this. Well, the model flipped, and it's good, right? It's like your grandma can watch you race somewhere, and we can just go. We can put it on a jumbotron at the track now. The fans get to see the replays. It's cool. So it's pretty cool, the streaming that came out of COVID. So those are the two things I think are really going to lead the charge. Now we need to be careful because, like, in my opinion, a flow type deal isn't good for the tracks. It's good for certain tracks, but like a weekly short track, it's awfully tough because they kind of pick the winners and losers, and it's not based on whose eyeballs watching the races and those sorts of things. So, but everyone's got a different opinion on it, but it'll just be interesting because at the end of the day, our business model currently is built off people coming, buying a ticket, buying our beer, buying our hot dogs, and sitting in the grandstands. And that's how we're able to pay the purse every night. And so it's difficult when people stay home and it's a $150 annual subscription to watch all this racing. So it'll be interesting, how that progresses over the next 5 or 10 years. But it sure is cool to be able to see the replay of, the 3 wide pass for the win or what have you. And
right.
And the coolest thing about it was the emotion in Victory Lane, because like the biggest events, we get, 50 photographers, and they all got to stand right there. And the fans in the stands, they're far away too. And then they're blocked by these photographers, which I get it. The photographer wants to get the shot, but the fan in the stands doesn't get to see the emotion on the,
sure,
on the guy's face, or the sweat, or Casey Johnson's thumbnail about coming off from having to keep the MSD box together at Milwaukee. Like, you don't see that, but now it's on the big screen. They can zoom in and they can see all this stuff. Like, it's very cool to do that. So I hate when I'm in the stands as a fan and they go and they're referring to the stream and they're talking about the replay. Well, on the replay, it says, or it shows that, the 87 car had contact from the 42 car, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I've watched this wreck from 3 different angles. And the poor schlup's sitting there swatting mosquitoes, drinking a $4 beer and eating a $4 hot dog. And he bought a $25 ticket to be there. And the guy sitting at home drinking his, Quick Trip bushel of beer and having a steaks on the barbecue, he gets to see all these replays. I'm like, we got to change this. So we got the screens at our biggest shows now, and just trying to take care of that fan in the stands.
Yeah, it definitely adds a lot to the whole program. I've loved seeing it too at races.
It's
for
cool.
Sure.
Yeah, it makes it just that much bigger.
Yeah. Now you kind of had answered it. I was gonna ask you this and what your thoughts were, and if NASCAR's presence in Wisconsin specifically, if you felt that would help, racetracks here or series around here. And I think you kind of answered that, but then I hadn't really thought about it would be really nice to see something like the Craftsman Truck Series make their way back to, actually racing at some of these short tracks where these grassroots people are. I mean, you've seen, we've seen the Cup Series go and run at Bowman Gray, and then, you hear what people say about that or whatever, and, get in front of those types of people and that just passionate about racing. And I don't know if you would have any more to add on your thoughts on that. Just, NASCAR's presence, whether they're coming to Road America or, the Milwaukee Mile, if you feel any effects of when they're not present, in our state, in our area.
Well, Grundy's a NASCAR track now, and they just had a NASCAR race downtown Chicago, 40 minutes away. No NASCAR driver even thought of coming over. And they got this new deal, and the drivers actually gain points. It's a point system, nothing to do with the championship or anything. But there's $1 million for doing the most appearances and everything else. And they're trying. So NASCAR is trying to get these guys out there, and their time's as limited as ours, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to that point, if I have a picture of Al being held by Tony Stewart and Steve Kinzer when he was a baby. There's a picture of Bobby Allison holding me when I was in a diaper, and he's got my brother in another arm. Well, no wonder why we're Bobby Allison fans. No wonder why we love Tony Stewart and Steve Kinzer. Like, there's that connection. And it's the, Bill Elliott with his arm around your kid back in 1989 at Kalamazoo Speedway.
Yeah.
Well, that's a picture for the lifetime, right? And so that kid is probably a Bill Elliott fan, but I guarantee you dad's drinking Coors beer and a Bill Elliott fan and probably driving a Ford because Bill Elliott took the time to put his arm around his kid to have a picture made. And we've lost that. And so like when William Byron came, it's a perfect example. They call and was supposed to have Josh Berry. Josh Berry was going to come run Dixieland. Like, man, that'd be really cool. Josh can't come. He's got, I forget, sponsor deal, or I think he was on the computer simulator deal. So he can't come now. Ads written and everything else. I'm like, well, who can we get? Oh, we can get William Byron. I'm like, oh, all right. So regardless of how he got there and everything else, it's like, all right, well, he's driving the iconic 24 car. William Byron, the driver of the 24 Hendrick car, is going to be a Kakana. Something along those lines. No real fanfare. He qualifies in the top 20. He's the first one at the autograph line. So this is August 1st or 4th or whatever the date was, first Tuesday in August. He comes to Madison a few weeks later to run. I'm out parking cars. He sets fast time. He comes out to roll the dice. The fans go nuts. Like, there was all these fans that got his autograph at Kakana and got to see him at Kakana that came to, like, he had a connection with him now. So I'll welcome him back. And, like, I'm excited. Like, I cheer for him on Sundays now. What the hell am I doing cheering for a kid from North Carolina that ran legend cars? Is beyond me. But he came to our race and connected with the fans, and now I find myself cheering for him. It's amazing that something like that works in today's environment, but it does. But we just got to get him out there and let them introduce themselves to the racing public. So I mean, Kyle Larson's a perfect example of what he's doing on dirt. And Kyle Busch when he was running a bunch. So. And Kyle Busch is awesome. And he raced ASA when I was at Elko, and he got in a wreck with Reed Sorensen or something. And I thought he wasn't going to amount to anything. But I didn't think Carl Edwards was going to be that good when he ran with me at I-44 either. So I might not be a talent scout, as it turns out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I used to root on Kyle Busch a lot. I was always a Jeff Gordon fan growing up, but I really started rooting on Kyle Busch all the time because he'd come around here. I mean, he was fun to watch race. I mean, he was running around here a lot. He
was, no doubt about it. I mean, but you get that connection with him, and like I say, there's just not that. And I'm hopeful that in the coming years that we're able to close that gap a little bit. Because unfortunately, the way it all works, right? The Ty Majeski winning a truck championship is almost I don't know how to word it. But it's going to be harder and harder for a true short track ace. Like, why is Casey Johnson? I'll put Casey Johnson up against anyone, or Bubba Pollard, or I mean, these guys are they're really good and they understand their race cars, and like they work on their stuff. They're not hired guns, like they've come through they've proven themselves on the short track level. And then it's just like when Jason Schuler, I thought that was so cool. Racing Jason Schuler got the 17 Visine ride in the Busch Series, and then all of a sudden he gets pushed out because of money. And you're like, but Jason Schuler's really good. Who is this guy? I've never read this guy's name in Midwest Racing News or in Speed Sport. Like, I've never even heard of half these guys. Yeah. And it's like the pedigree's not there. And I feel like a Midwest Tour event, or really any event in Wisconsin that has super lates, the pedigree of the driver, like, you can go through and, well, he's a track champion here. He won this race. He's done this. He's done that. Like, the 16 guys in every field have proven their worth and that they belong holding that steering wheel. But you go to some other areas, and it's kind of tough trying to figure out they're here because they're. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense why he has that sponsor on there and why he has that ride. And it's kind of, race fans aren't stupid.
No.
We're far from it. I mean, we're addicted to it, but we're far from stupid when it comes to all this racing stuff. And when you're trying to pull the wool over our eyes, it's like, but he does, this guy doesn't belong here. But like a Kyle Busch or a guy like a William Byron can come set fast time at Madison, and you got like the who's who of, okay, yeah, he's the real deal. All right, yep, carry on. Like we can get behind him now. So it's it'll be interesting to see what we have in the holding the steering wheel in the coming years, so to speak. Man, it does affect the short track because it does. A guy like Casey Johnson might hope that maybe he can get an ARCA ride. No, that's $45,000-$50,000 for one race. So so they're chasing the super late model stardom, but that's okay too, because you look at a Bob Sanker or Joe Shearer or Mike Eddy, and your grandfather, Brian made it somehow. I mean, that was pretty cool. I was a Busch Series and truck official off and on during that era, and it was always cool to see him there, and like he belonged. Like he went and won stuff, and he did well and should be there, and hopefully we can get back to that where we're there on merit. But that said, we also don't need all that influx of the cash or big bank accounts in the short track world either, because that'll chase off guys too. So it's a fine line.
Yeah, definitely. The last thing we were kind of talking about too was the streaming, and then obviously you have the people come that are coming to the races, and I think when you first saw maybe somebody was streaming something on, like some stuff on Facebook or just streaming in general started becoming a thing, people are like, oh, this stinks because now people aren't going to ever come to the races and yada, yada, yada. Do you feel you've seen less people in the stands because of streaming, or do you think overall as a whole there is way more engagement into short track racing because it exists? And obviously you had a lot of positive things to say, as far as, hey, we have this and we can have this Jumbotron, which, obviously adds to the entire event in general. But when it comes to the people that, are at home, what do you think that looks like for you?
Right now it depends on what streaming service and depends on the weather. And obviously there's big events that are going to be big events, and like Oktoberfest, more eyeballs are probably on it, but we're not on we're on Track TV, which is more super late based. So the guy that is on Flow, because like I buy my Flow subscription so I can watch the Chili Bowl every year. And then I watch some USAC stuff, and then I watch highlights from when, Madison stuff's on there. But so Fest probably doesn't get as much accolades as it probably should, but we've never really pounded our chest on it. We just we got it something pretty cool going on, and so it does expose it to some more people, but probably not as much as others. But like a Flow deal, we'll know if the weather's bad. IRA show, they're on Flow. If the weather's bad, we see it at the gate, like more so than if you weren't streaming.
Sure.
So
makes sense. Yeah.
But to that point, then you can also, maybe they weren't going to come anyways, but I know the percentages are a little bit higher of those that don't come on a whether it's hot or rain in the area or what have you. But to that point, you can push Corn Fest in August, and you're still pushing that stuff. But the bigger events are definitely getting bigger because of it. So like Snowball Derby, there's no arguing the growth that they've had down there, and Slinger Nationals has done well. They're off a little this year, but it was also weather affected. So the jury's out, so to speak. But it's definitely it's here to stay. No two ways about it.
Yeah, and I would hope that probably on a racer's standpoint that the racers are utilizing the fact, hey, well, with their sponsors and being able to advertise, well, now this is another platform where you can be out there on. I would hope that there's a benefit to that, and and obviously when you have that benefit and racers can draw people in that way, it just overall racing is better as a whole because of it.
Yeah, I had the goal that all asphalt super late model racing from the west to the east to the north to the south was going to be on the same platform, and I thought we had it pulled together at PRI the one year, and then it didn't happen for various reasons. But on paper, it looked like the perfect deal, so that a super late model fan could tune in and he could watch the Spears Tour from out west, and he could watch Southern Super Series, and he could watch a Pass, and he could watch Midwest Tour and CRA, and but I mean, even in Wisconsin, you look at it's frustrating from a fan standpoint, and I get it because I'm a race fan. The different streaming services you have to have if that's how you want to watch, but to that point, driving, I would drive to all those racetracks and watch them too. So it's, I guess it's on your perspective at that point. So I always try to, what's the ticket cost to get in the race? You can stream it for that or a little bit more. And because obviously we're paying production and everything, but yeah, it's, we'll see where it's ever changing. No two ways about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're always seeing people having watch parties at bars or in, someone's garage. And yeah, it just seems like there's, people you're taking the time. I'm going to go over to so-and-so's or go to this bar and grill so I can.
I was not happy with the crowd at Kaukauna last year. Not at all. And I drove to the hotel and the watch party was just breaking up. And they were 3 miles from the track, and I knew exactly what they were doing. They watched in their garage and had everyone over. And it's like, you can't stop it. But it's like, why aren't you at the racetrack? It was a beautiful night. And yeah, it just, you see that. It's like, ugh, it just kind of hurts a little. But that's just the ticket seller in me. That's what I do for a living. Yeah. Sell tickets.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one of the other things, thinking about, you talked about Eric Jones coming to the Gander 250 this year. What else, whether it's this season or just anything you got going on with anything that you're involved with, what are you looking forward to the most you got up and coming, or anything new that we should be watching out for?
I think Kaukauna will be good. Fest, we're working on a couple elements there. We always try to do something new. Unfortunately, Chris Slack, who was my main guy at Gandrud, passed away unexpectedly, and he'd been a sponsor of mine since the Big 8 days, since 2006. And so we started. He's always believed in, or had always believed in, what my visions were. So I'm that Crate-Toberfest, we had 34 crate cars run Sunday of Fest last year, and it was pretty cool. And then it's $1,000 to win that race, but then one entrant gets drawn out of the bucket, and they win a brand new crate motor from Gandrud. And so I'm hoping we can keep that going. So we're working on that, and just fine tuning a few things. My goal was always that your grandfather's race would be the Knights on Thursday night of Fest. And last year we had a sponsor come, or a couple different revenue streams pushing in to make a $20,000 to win race, which I thought was really cool. And I said, we can do this, but it needs to be a 4-year commitment. And unfortunately, it didn't get the support. I had reached out to over 80 teams when we first announced it in January. And because scheduling and everything else, we ended up with 17 cars, and that was embarrassing for me, because obviously I'm used to some bigger counts than that, especially for 20,000 to win.
Yeah.
But it was $888 to start, and so you did the math, and there was no entry fee. So at that time, a standard Midwest Tour show was $625 to start plus a $100 entry fee. So it was really like $525 to start versus $888. And it's like a warm-up for Fest and everything else, and it just didn't get supported. And so then when we got looking at this year, the sponsor pulled out, which I can't blame them. If I put $20,000 up and only got 17 cars, I'd be pissed. And probably would have asked for a refund, which luckily he didn't do. But it's so we started working on it back in January or December, going through it all. And then after Jefferson, we had 18 cars at Jefferson for the tour race. And I'm like, I think these guys are getting raced too much. I think there's too many super late races going on. And then you look at July, and it was Slinger Nationals, and it was Hawkeye, and then Jefferson had the Bickle deal, and all right, so what cars can we really expect? Jeremy Lepak was the only guy that hadn't run last year that reached out, and then Dalton Zare reached out and said he was going to run, and they were entered last year, but didn't make it. But then you look, and it was like, well, Derek Lemke doesn't really have a program anymore, and then he blew his motor, destroyed the car, and Tristan Swanson destroyed his car, and all of a sudden, we're like, I think we're going to have 15 cars. What are we doing? Like, this isn't how we're going to honor Tom Ruffner, the first ARTCO champion. And I didn't know your grandpa that well until he started with the Dick Trickle project, because he was, as I was coming of age, he was getting out of racing. So Brian was running more than Tom was.
Sure, yeah.
So, like, I wasn't staying at the back of the trailer getting Tom Ruffner's autograph. I might have when I was, like, really little, but in my mind, if it happened, it didn't happen very often. So, but as he started working on the Trickle project, I really got to know him and your grandma, and they come down to Madison quite a bit, and like, this guy's like top notch guy. This guy's awesome. And my dad always held your grandpa in high regards. So I just felt like we weren't in we were going to be begging cars to be there and not have a quality field to represent one of the quality racers of the Midwest. So I said, let's just hit reset and let's move everything to Thursday of Fest. And so we're actually we're going to run 88 laps of late model racing that night. So it'll be 22 laps for the nights, 22 laps for the futures, 22 laps for each of the lacrosse late models. And each of them are going to get a helmet, and it's all in honor of your grandpa. And it's we're working on all the finer details of it, but that's the basic concept. And that was always, when we started the nights, he was going to be the presenter of the trophy. And we rained out that first year of it. And so, but that was always the intention, was to have it there. So, while it sucked that we weren't able to do it during the fair and everything, it probably in the whole realm of things, it belongs during that Oktoberfest race weekend, Thursday night. We'll do it right. The cars will be there, the fans will be there, and we'll pay tribute the right way. So, that's one of the cool things we have up our sleeves for Fest.
Awesome. Yeah, I know my family appreciates it very much, and it's I look forward to it. Definitely have to be there to support that for sure, and for sure as a fan, I haven't been around the super late model, so, but no, and that's actually, in talking about your dad too, as I grew up, even really before, I would say even before I was involved in any division of racing where, you were a promoter at or anything like that or involved with, I had heard of John McKarns from my family since a very young age. If something was being compared to, in a way, a track was being ran, well, John McKarns, the way he did this, like, the way John McKarns had ARTCO, that was the best. The way he did this was the best. Is there anything that, maybe what's one of the number one things you've taken away from your dad that you think about and try and apply to everything that you're doing?
Well, he always lived by the golden rule. And so we try to instill that in our kids and in our lives, and to be a race fan first and look at through the eyes of the race fan. Sometimes we're so, listen, nobody really cares what body's on the car, right? They just want cars on the track. Nobody really cares what shock you guys have. They just want to make sure that there's cars on the track that are competitive. Like, so you got, and sometimes I look at that and I'm to a fault, right? I get called out for being maybe too worried about selling tickets and not worried enough about the feelings of teams or what have you. But I care, like, so I always try to treat people by the golden rule and do that. And then, and I always have a clipboard on race night, and I'm always taking notes, and it's always on how to make things better. And whether it's, like at Madison, it'll be that the lights flickering in front of the beer stand, or next year, don't open the gate until 4:30, or Hawkeye, I know to open the gates before practice starts because Hawkeye doesn't allow fans in the stands until they bought a ticket. So the first year we went there, we had practice going on, and there's people outside the gate that can't watch practice because they didn't open the ticket gate until 5:30 and practice started at 4. So just things like that on how to make things better. So like Oktoberfest, we take constant notes. We have meetings and how to make that the best it can be. And every year we do something a little bit different. So like for probably 15 years, I've been trying to redo how we do hauler parking, because it starts fest off on the wrong foot for just about everyone trying to battle for a parking spot. So this year, if the teams are entered by September 15th, they will have a spot set aside for them, and then they just have to have that spot filled by Wednesday. And so we're working online to make all that streamlined.
That's big news.
But I'll be the guy plotting it all. But it's just a jigsaw puzzle. But that's like, how do we make this better? And you want to make it a great experience, whether it's the guy that comes with his 4-cylinder on a tow dolly, or the guy that brings a stacker trailer with his super late model in it, and everyone in between. We want to make sure that they have a good fest. And I think getting that parking deal situated will be a positive. No one will be any worse off than they were last year, but a whole lot of guys should be in a lot better spot than they were last year from a having to argue and camp out for 8 days and all the stuff that went with that. But right, there's a lot of tracks that would kill to have the problems that we have with the hauler parking. Yeah. So we'll execute it and get it right and move on. But so I always take notes and go back and look. And
I've noticed you carry a clipboard, yeah.
Yeah. So even if it's I just did the Grundy entry the other day, and so I had to go back 2 years just to make sure, because we got flooded out last year. But I just went back, and you just kind of remember everything, and then you think about it. Oh, well, we should do this, and added 5 more minutes of practice from 25 to 30 on the first one, because why not? And so you just just take notes and make everything better. Learn from it, and if you're not learning, I mean, again, I've basically grown up in this my entire life, so you'd think I'd know everything, but there's so much that I have to learn and relearn. So I just write it all down and try to make next year better. Yeah.
No, yeah, that hauler parking at Oktoberfest, that'll be huge if that works out the way you're hoping.
Yep.
Now we've just seen, we've talked a little bit about, what it'll take to keep racing going, and we've also seen some tracks close, some tracks, you talk about Rockford, and then now there's State Park Speedway, things like that. And, extremely sad for, a lot of people. But then now you have, someone younger now too, like Travis Dassow coming in, buying a racetrack. You look for a bright.
Is he younger? He got a lot of gray hair after buying a racetrack. I don't know if anyone knows.
Did it happen that quick?
It's pretty darn quick.
I guess I don't know how old he is.
But he lost a lot of weight somehow. Like, I always said him spread so thin. Why am I getting so fat? I think it has to do with Quick Trip hot spots. But anyways, you were saying?
Oh, Quick Trip's hard to refrain from. It no doubt about it. But no, so you have a guy like Travis Dassow coming in, buying Slinger Speedway. As time goes by, and other people down the road, go to buy a racetrack. If I was looking to buy a racetrack, what are some of the first things that you would tell me?
You have to have a realistic number of what your attendance really is, because most people don't have a realistic number. And we set up Madison to be profitable at 700 paid adults on a Friday night. And there's so many people that they look at the stands at Joe Shear Classic and they swear we have 10,000 people, and we don't. But they swear to God there's 10,000 people there. So they come in and I'm not going to name names, but there's some people that aren't in racing anymore that had those expectations, and it didn't take them long to figure out that it wasn't 5,000 people on a Saturday night at their dirt track in Illinois, or at their Saturday night asphalt track in Wisconsin. You're dealing with hundreds, not thousands. And so if all of a sudden you set your purse where it's, 3 times as much as it should be, or you let guys buy 4 tires and you're trying to supplement that with the purse, like the only one getting rich off that's Hoosier, right? Or American Racer. And those are consumables that the drivers have to go through. It's not the $30 or $25 pit pass that's the issue. And it's the brakes, and it's the tires, and it's the body panels, and it's all that. It's where there's just tremendous cost for guys to do. I mean, if you look at let's just take Joe Shear Classic. So we're paying $1,500 to start. So there's $100 entry fee, and weekend pit pass is $50. And you got 7 guys, so there's $350. So you're $450 in now. The track doesn't see anything else from that, right? Like, there's a little bit of profit on the tires, but it's minimal. I make more money off a ticket than I do a tire. And people don't believe that, but it's true. By the time you've paid the sales tax on it and everything else. So I'd rather sell tickets than tires. And so you go through all that. There's very little that the race team is spending at the track that actually stays with the track. Now, that tire check might be made out to the track, but it's not staying at the track. I mean, it's just going. And really, the pit pass money is just going back to into the purse kitty, so to speak. So it's interesting when guys buy these and they think, well, we're gonna average 2,000 people a night. Like, you're not. I hope you do, and if you do, show me how to do it. Please show everyone how to do it, because there's very few tracks.
Right.
Like, I went to Knoxville for a weekly show, and it's like, okay, so Knoxville Nationals is what carries this, and it's nothing against the crew down there, and the place is beautiful and everything else, but I mean, they're not selling 2,000 tickets on a night, and you can see it with your own eyes, but these you got to get the numbers right, because the numbers don't lie. And if all of a sudden you put yourself in a position where you're paying way too much, not only does it hurt your track, but so Bob Lawton, who runs Boone Speedway, so IMCA Super Nationals.
Yep.
Way back when, he said it takes $4 to win $1 in racing. And so that was like in 99 or 2000, he was preaching that. So it's probably more like $9 now to win one, right? But if all of a sudden we have all this money out there, we're going to spend more. It's just human nature, trying to chase that. And you have then the other tracks in the area, it screws up their economics also, because now they're going to try to match you. And I know, I mean, we can never pay the race driver enough. But I've also gone to Volusia and seen, what do they have, 60 UMP modifieds down there? And 59 of them had stackers, and it paid $500 to win. So maybe it's not about that purse money. We just need to set it right to get it. And I mean, call me cheap, call me whatever you want. Not you necessarily, but at the end of the day, my job is to keep Madison Speedway and Angel Park Speedway and La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway profitable and open. And just like the McDonald's down the street or the Quick Trip, they need to make a profit also. But if we start doing stupid things and paying ungodly money, we're all going to go broke. And then we're not going to have anywhere to race. And more so than that, I mean, that was more on when you buy a racetrack. Mm-hmm. There's a group of us, we're working on property tax. Obviously, that's county by county. But they're like golf courses have a different property tax scale than basically any other business. But the politicians like to play golf. As far as I know, the politicians like to play golf. So my friend owns a golf course in Wisconsin. He has 150 acres, and he pays like 1/3 of what I pay on 50 acres. And he's able to be open a lot more days than I am. We're only allowed 28 race events a year at Oregon. And so we're getting the full tax on it. It's like, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, but then there's other tracks. So like Rockford, maybe if their sales or property tax hadn't been as outrageous as it was, maybe that track's still open. But I think when people like Copart approach a track and the track's paying $80,000 a year in property tax, that's a tough nut to cover regardless of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But now that sure looks a lot prettier if they're willing to come in and pay you money and you can just walk away from it. I mean, it's as painful as it is. but a lot of tracks are struggling to pay that. And realistically, like in the Midwest, you might get 20, 25 events in realistically with rain, but you're basically Memorial Day to Labor Day, maybe a fall special. But out west, they take June and July off because of the heat and start up mid-August. Down in Florida, they're taking time off because of the heat. Up, the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, or even the Northeast, they're probably 25 events a year. So where are you making this money to pay property tax year round? And especially when you're being valued in the same way that, Meijer grocery store or Menards or whomever across the street is. So we're working on that. And obviously that's a big project, and there's people a lot smarter than I am involved in it. But for some reason, they keep making me call into the conference call to put my input in. But it's I think if we can get that straightened out, that would help a lot of landowners, a lot of short tracks stay open. So we'll see where that goes.
So your first two tips for someone buying a racetrack is realistic, fan count, and buy a golf course.
Yeah, maybe, but put a putting green in or something. Oh, I could put a putting.
There you go, mini golf in the middle.
To that, I mean, I was so happy. Todd Thielen called me to tell me he sold the track, and there's been rumors around about it being sold not as a racetrack, and he told me that Travis and Kelsey bought it. I was just I was so happy, and happy for them. They got a young family, and I know what it's like growing up and also raising a family at the racetrack. And they've always been really good to us. So he printed us. We didn't have a dime, and he printed us some MIS T-shirts that in 2015 to help us get going. So always, but any promoter that thinks they want to buy a racetrack or has interest in it, they should come to the RPM meetings and the power meetings and all those, and just you can sit and have a couple beers with Terry Tucker. And he's born and raised, or not born, but he's pretty much raised at Jefferson Speedway. His dad bought it, and he grew up there, and now he has it, and he's been through the fire. And it's fine to sit on the Facebooks and speculate about what needs to happen and this and that, and that's all fine and dandy. But when the rubber meets the pavement, I prefer to take advice from the guy that's been through it before, and guys like Terry Tucker and Roger Van Duyck and Chuck Deary and the likes. You can learn so much just sitting back and listening to those guys.
Oh, I would imagine.
No different than listening to your grandpa or your uncle or your dad or Dick Trickle or, whomever. Steve Carlson has a little bit of knowledge too, I've learned. So yeah, it's the same deal, but just in a different area of short track racing.
In one event, I have actually a lot of curiosity on all the planning and preparation that goes into it. Specifically, is the Oktoberfest race weekend with so many people, the campers, all the divisions of racing. For everything that's going on there, it is and we'll put the hauler parking aside up until this year, and it's a pretty smooth running weekend. I mean, what is all the preparation that goes into a big weekend like that where you're racing for 4 days?
Well, we rely on a few different sanction bodies to help us out with that. But, we have a strong weekly program from a car count, and crowds are starting to come back to. We do a lot of emails back and forth, and then we have a sit-down meeting beginning of July, and then usually right around Slinger Nationals time, and then we kind of get the ball rolling on everything. And then probably the biggest thing we do is the week after Fest. We bring all the key staff in, and we have pizza and stuff up in turn one, and we go through it drags on, but it's necessary. All right, so the outer pits, what's going on there? Oh, okay, so we need to put a gravel road here, not here. Like, you just figured that stuff out, and you don't walk in their shoes. They walk for 5 days in those shoes. Everything from the front gate to the racer reunion party to lineup to getting lineups from the tower down, spotters, just all that stuff. And you just make the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you figure out how to fix it. So we get all those notes in October, and then we're able to, over the winter, be brainstorming. And then come July, we put it in action, but really put it into action into July and through getting the fan guide out and the competitor guide out. And so like this is it was actually Chad Weir's was like all over my case last year, and he was right. And a lot of people were all over my case about hauler parking. And I'm the kid that was dumping barrels. It used to be that they would try to bring all the haulers in while they're sending all their haulers out. And so it was just gridlock. And I'm looking I'm dumping barrels up on the hill, and I'm like, Dad, why don't we just load the racetrack? Keep everyone in the pits. All the haulers that are trying to park, we'll just park them out on the racetrack, bring them around, and then that'll give the guys time to load their cars up, and then we'll send everyone out of the pits, and then we'll bring everyone in off the track. And I mean, that was just one simple thing that we noticed. And so that was like 1998 or something like that we started it, but it just that was the first progression of making hauler parking better. But obviously as haulers got bigger and guys ran more nights, and then we got toter homes, and we got trailers that have tool carts in them, and you just have all those things. Like right now everyone's got a side-by-side or a golf cart, so everyone brings a little utility trailer to tow that up there. Well, what do you do with all them? Like, they take up parking spots.
Yeah.
Utility trailers don't buy tickets and don't help pay the purse. So we actually rented the horse arena on the fairgrounds, and so we have one guy that's his job. He goes around and tags them, puts them in the horse arena, and to open up more parking spots. And we're trying to get more parking. And so yeah, there's always something to do. And like last year, if we got to order the buttons, and I got in trouble for that, but I got 3 reminders this week alone about making sure I ordered those. So
Greg's on the buttons.
I'm on the buttons. But it's everything from ordering the pictures to the banners to the hats, and I mean, it's just there's a lot of moving parts, but we got just an awesome team through and through to pull it all off.
Yeah, you sure do. I look forward to it every year, and I'll be there again. And I appreciate.
Wait, you went from being there as a fan, but now I mentioned the hauler park, and now you said you're going to be there.
I'm going to be there in the Midwest truck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then maybe the Crate-Toberfest too. We'll see.
Yeah, you should do that. Do you play pull tabs?
My wife does. She's very good at them.
All right. I don't know how you can be very good at them, but anyways.
I should say she's very lucky at anything like that.
Fair enough, yeah. So
scratch offs the whole thing.
For the same cost as $20 worth of pull tabs, you could win a $7,000 engine. I mean, all the rage right now is $1,000 pull tabs. This is 7 times that much. I mean, how do you not do that? Just makes sense. And your odds are better. 1 in 34 chance.
There you have it.
The pull tabs I lost money on last night were the odds were a lot less in my favor, and they proved right.
No $50 winners or $250s.
No, they did that $1,000 deal. Now you don't get those little wins anymore. You get like $1. Like, oh, great. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
I'm playing them a lot less now. Yeah, the big dollars took over. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, man, I sure appreciate you coming up here and taking the time to do this. I think this has been my absolute favorite thing about, doing this podcast thing. And, I've known you from a racer's standpoint, and, my family has always talked about your family, but it's awesome to get a chance to sit down and, learn a little bit more about you and give people a chance to learn more about you and a little bit about your dad and where you came from. I had no clue that, McKarns family was out of Ohio and how he ended up here. And
hence the family farm.
Farm.
That's a tribute to the roots of McKarns as an auto race, and no doubt about it. So, and to that point, like it may sound odd, or I think people know this. Like there's always something special for me when there's an Artco tie in a field. And so whether it's Colin Reffner in a truck, or a super late model, or Penn Sauter running a Bandolero, or now a super late model, or Eddie Hoffman coming to run with us at Jefferson, or Larry Milton Jr. with a 602 late model, or like Derek Lemke, his dad chased the Artco deal for a long time and was a strong supporter of our family. Pierre Goulet came to our Midwest's Best party, and he's actually he married Christine, and her dad was owned Dick Harrington's cars, so it was like an Artco love story. But you just get these people that have been such a big part of your life, and when those names come through the pit gate, it makes us feel better, or gives us a little bump, because sometimes this deal can get you down, just like racing, right? But it's cool when you have those multiple generations of families that are still supporting the same family that was the promoter in the 70s, and you still have it 50 years later. It's just a boost to the confidence that you might be doing something right. So it's always good to have the generational Artco membership, if you will, coming through the pit gate and signing on the line and getting their wristband and going to the staging. And Steve Carlson came down and ran to Madison racing, and Craig Phillips goes, "I couldn't believe it. I looked in my rearview mirror and Steve Carlson's behind me." And I'm like, "I know, it's cool, isn't it?" And he's still running at Lacrosse Weekly, and Mike just won a championship, and Skyler just whooped on him at the fair race, and he's a 2-time champion. So you just see those multiple generations of names that have supported our family over the years and allowed us to make a living doing what we love. And so it's great that you're in a truck and enjoying racing and making it all happen. So looking forward to finishing out the 2025 season on a high note.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, thanks again for coming up, Greg. This has been wonderful to get a little bit longer chance to talk to you and learn a little bit more about you and your family and everything you got going on. And yeah, best of luck to the remainder of the year, and look forward to everything you're involved with.
All right, man. We'll see you soon.
All right. Catch you later. Thank you for listening in to Speed and Grease. If you're a returning listener, I appreciate you tuning into another episode. And if it was your first time tuning into the show, I hope you enjoyed it and want to keep coming back for more. And if you haven't already, make sure you head on over to Facebook, Instagram, like and follow us on one of those platforms wherever you prefer, even on X as well. And if you watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, make sure you head on over to YouTube, subscribe to our channel there to stay up to date on everything. And also, if you want, give us a rating and review over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. Thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you in the next one.